Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. Wa nashhadu anna sayyidana wa sanadana wa shafi'ana Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Amma ba'd. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فاقرأوا ما تيسر من القرآن صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وارحم على عبدك ورسولك سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وسلم تسليما. Inshallah, first announcement I want to make is that from tomorrow we are going to start at 3:30 inshallah, so that whenever the electricity goes at 3, we have time to prepare everything, inshallah. So the new timings from tomorrow will be 3:30 to 6, 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. and then inshallah we will start at 3:30 p.m. sharp and end by 6 p.m. latest, inshallah. So we have some verses left from Surah At-Tawbah. So let's do that first. I will go through these slides. So later today, inshallah, we'll be starting Juz 11. And when we start that, I will come back to this. But today we are finishing first. First, we'll be finishing Juz 10, the remaining verses of Surah At-Tawbah. And Surah At-Tawbah will continue in Juz 11. But first, let's finish those verses left from last time. So if you remember last time, in Surah At-Tawbah, we did the first 15 verses of Surah At-Tawbah, which were talking about war, peace, and treaties with the mushrikeen. War, peace, and treaties with the mushrikeen. Now we pick up in verses 17 to 18. Here I will just say in Surah At-Tawbah, we're going to do a bit of a selection. We're not going to be covering the entire surah in detail. When I skip a significant amount of verses, I will inshallah ta'ala try to explain or summarize what exactly was happening in those verses. So verses 17 to 18 is something that may surprise some people who are not familiar with Quran al-Kareem. This is something, there's going to be an incident later about masajid, not this coming in the next juz. This is something that should be well aware to people, that the mushrikeen cannot maintain the masajid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from the very outset, one aspect of Deen of Islam was Fateh Makkah, was that Makkah Mukarramah, Baytullah, Kaaba must be restored to Tawheed, must be restored to the worship of the one and only God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, must be taken away from the mushrikeen, polytheists and idolaters, and their worship, their idolatry and their shirk must stop therein. Alright? So in that sense, it was always a target, Fateh Makkah. Now, if people want to label that as an offensive war, people want to name that as reclaiming the Kaaba for the Anbiya, as the Kaaba was built first by Adam alayhi salam, then rebuilt by Ibrahim alayhi salam, and the Kaaba belongs to the Anbiya, the Mu'mineen, the Ahl Iman, the Ahl Tawheed, and ultimately the Kaaba is Baytullah, it belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright? So here, verses 17 to 18. مَا كَانَ لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ أَن يَأْمُرُوا مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ. It is not befitting, it is not possible, it is not their rank, it is not their purpose, it is not for them, who, the mushrikeen, the polytheists and idolaters, to maintain the masajid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is true, a universal rule up till today. And so the country where this would apply the most today would be India, because India is one of the few countries in the world, large countries in the world, which are majority mushrikeen. And the masajid in India must always, ever and always entirely remain under the authority, supervision, maintenance of the Muslimin. Who are these mushrikeen? Allah Ta'ala describes about the shahidina ala anfusim bil kufri. They themselves bear witness against their own selves. They bear witness against their own selves regarding their disbelief. Why? Because they openly do shirk. So their entire theology of shirk, their rites and rituals and practices of shirk are at outright testimony to their disbelief. Ulaika habitat a'maluhum, and these people, they are the ones who their a'mal, their actions and deeds have totally come to naught. They've become rendered null and void, have no worth whatsoever. وَفِي النَّارِ هُمْ خَالِدُونَ, and in the fire of Jahannam they shall abide. Verse number 18. إِنَّمَا يَعْمُرُ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ مَنْ آمَنَ. Those and those alone who will maintain the masajid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those man amana, who have iman billahi in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa yawm al-akhir, in the last day, wa qama salata, firmly and regularly establish the salah. Especially here it means to establish salah in those masajid. That is why even today, in times of coronavirus, COVID-19 lockdown, still there must be at least 2 people who pray jama'ah in every salah in the masjid. And if there are some masajid, especially in America, where they are not even doing that, then that is a shame. Especially when the imam and the deputy imam and the muaddin and the scholar in residence are still drawing salaries, then they should, if they do nothing else, they're not leading any programs, youth groups, they must at least maintain the perpetuity of salah. And if those 2-3 individuals agree to socially isolate entirely, and the only people they interact with is one another in the masjid, then they can safely, with the karam and fazl and hifaz of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maintain the salah in the masjid. And for Jummah, only 4 are required. Alright? And so this must also continue. Khair wa ata zakata. May Allah ta'ala keep all the masajid open. May Allah ta'ala grant all of us the love and appreciation and value for the masajid. Wa ata zakata, and those who pay the zakah, the mandatory charity. وَلَمْ يَخْشَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Now this is, Allahu Akbar, a very important criteria for who can maintain the masajid. I think a lot of masajid board members and trustees and committee members, it's not based on your money or your wealth or your donation or your influence or how long you lived in the neighborhood. This is the criteria. وَلَمْ يَخْشَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And they do not fear anything, anyone, any being, illallah, except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَسَىٰ أُولَٰئِكَ أَن يَكُونُوا مِنَ الْمُهْتَدِينَ. Such as these, perhaps, hopefully, will be the ones who are among the rightly guided. Muhtadeen, the guided ones, the rightly guided, the ones who follow hidayah. So this is very important, not just the imam, but also the board members and the committee members of the masajid. The more muttaqi they are, the more the masjid will be a center of hidayah. This is very important. And may Allah Ta'ala protect all the masajid from certain instances where board members and committee members have strife and discord and disagreement and hostility and opposition with one another, because it can endanger the barakah and hidayah that will come to the people who pray in that masjid. Verses 20 to 22, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply mentioning the Muhajirun and their tremendous reward for this act of hijrah. Now remember, this act of hijrah is to voluntarily leave your home, your homeland, your family, your friends, your neighborhood, things you like, things you were fond of, things you were used to, environment, climate, weather that you're used to and were raised in, and local immunities that you have, and to leave for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of deen. This is very rare now today. Most people migrate for worldly purposes, but here Allah is talking about those blessed people who all of you know are the Muhajirun. So Allah Ta'ala describes them, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and those who have iman, وَهَاجِرُوا, and migrate for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَجَاهُدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and then even after migrating, when the hostile aggressors come and send their armies against them, now again they continue to strive and struggle in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ, by spending their money to establish the deen, وَأَنفُسِهِمْ, willing to put their lives on the line in the battlefield, أَعْظَمُ دَرَجَةً إِنْدَ اللَّهِ. This is Allah al-Azim in Quran al-Azim saying what is A'zam. Allahu Akbar Kabira. These Muhajirun have the greatest rank for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa ulaika humul faizun, and each and every one of them are faizun, are successful, are triumphant, are victorious. That is why any creed, any sect, any theology that suggests that any of the Muhajir Sahaba are unbelievers, na'udhu billah, as much of classical and medieval theological Shiism does, if you read their works, Secular liberal Shias may or may not believe these things, but the classical medieval works of Shi'i theology do takfir, declare as non-believers many of the Muhajirun Sahaba. First and foremost on their list is often Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma wa anhum ajmain. First and foremost on their list are these two. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that those who have Iman and those who made Hijrah, which includes many Sahaba, but also includes Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar, radiyallahu anhum, as historical fact, even atheists, Orientals, revisionists, non-Muslim historians accept the fact that Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar are from the Muhajirun, are from those who accepted Islam in Makkah Mukarramah and migrated to Medina Munawwara. Allah Ta'ala is saying, Allah Al-Azim, in Quran Al-Azim is saying that they have أَعْظَمُ دَرَجَةً إِنْدَ اللَّهِ. So now you decide for yourself how you want to view such a theology and creed that does takfir, that views many of these muhajirun, sahaba kiram, radiyallahu ta'ala ajmain, as unbelievers. And Allah Ta'ala has mentioned them also as faizun. And there's more. يُبَشِّرُهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِرَحْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ وَرِضْوَانٍ. And Allah subhanahu their Rabb gives them the joyous, glad tidings of a rahmah, of a mercy from Him. Waridwan, and a contentment and a declaration of absolute pleasure, that Allah Ta'ala is absolutely pleased and content with them. Allahu Akbar Kabira. And وَجَنَّاتٍ لَهُمْ فِيهَا نَعِيمٌ مُقِيمٌ. And multiple jannahs, multiple gardens, multiple heavens, multiple paradises, wherein they will have na'imun, they will have absolute bliss, muqimun, and it will be everlasting bliss. Muqimun, enduring, persisting, everlasting bliss. Khalidina fiha abadan, and they will dwell therein forever. Inna Allah indahu ajrun azim. Truly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a tremendous reward. So this is remember this Surah At-Tawbah, Surah 9, verses 20 to 22. It is enough for us to establish absolutely, without any exception or qualification, the absolute iman, yaqeen, and fawz and triumph of all the Muhajirun Sahaba. Don't worry, the Ansar is also coming soon inshallah. 23. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that for now what happened was, remember earlier in Surah Al-Anfal was discussion of Battle of Badr, right? In Surah At-Tawbah we're going to see some more battles will be coming today. So sometimes in these battles what would happen is that the believers may be facing family members who are mushrikeen, right, on the battlefield. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this clear. And this can be in any of the different battles. Okay? The second time where this may happen is that some of the believers had some of the believers who stayed back in Makkah Mukarramah and did not migrate, they did so that they could stay with their family. And some of them were given family protection, right? So their family, clan and tribe would say, no, you don't have to migrate. We will protect you against the mushrikeen, and you stay here. So this is the second application of this verse. So this verse can be aligned with both historical circumstances and it is general meaning, and it's a general teaching. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have adopted iman. La tattakhidhu aba'akum wa ikhwanakum awliya'a in istahabbul kufra ala al-iman. Do not take your fathers, your parents, your forefathers, wa ikhwanakum, your brothers, your siblings, and generally then this means all intimate, near family relations, awliya'a, as allies and protectors, in istahabbul kufra ala al-iman, if they have loved more, they have preferentially loved kufr more than iman, which means they prefer disbelief to belief. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ, and any one of you who does that, who takes them as their wali, takes them as their awliya, takes them as their allies and protectors, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ, then know that all such are wrongdoers. So it's a mistake and it's a sin to do that. Alright? Now again, this doesn't mean that if somebody is a convert, has accepted Islam, and they have parents or siblings who are not believers, you can love them, befriend them, do service of them. You can't take them as allies and protectors. You can't take them as allies and protectors. Alright? Verse 24. قُلْ إِنْ كَانَ آبَاؤُكُمْ وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ وَإِخْوَانُكُمْ. So this is related to that, and it's a very important verse of Quran al-Kareem, where Allah Ta'ala mentions here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam should be most beloved, should be the most beloved to believers. Again, this is general, blanket ruling. And then now here Allah Ta'ala is going to count out all the things that potentially in our heart can be rivals for what? For ahabbiya. Ahabbiya, and I'll show you that word, ahab. Ahabbiya, not mahbubiya. All of these things are mahbub to you, but what is going to be ahab to you? All of these things are beloved to you, but what is going to be most beloved, more beloved, and most beloved? In other words, when there's conflict, what will you choose? What will you prefer? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about this verse. Allah is not negating love for the things that will be mentioned in this list. Allah is negating that, Allah is affirming and establishing that Allah Ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam should be more beloved than everything on this list. So what is the list? Qul, proclaim to them, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, address the believers and tell them, in kana, if it is the case that aba'ukum, your fathers, parents, grandparents, forefathers, ancestors, وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ, your sons, your daughters, your children, your progeny, your descendants, وَإِخْوَانُكُمْ, your brothers, your siblings, your lateral relations, cousins, وَأَزْوَاجُكُمْ, or your spouses, وَأَشِيرَتُكُمْ, or you can sometimes translate relatives. Today, at that time it meant your clan and your tribe. وَأَمْوَالٌ اقْتَرَفْتُمُوهَا, or your money, your property, your wealth which you have acquired. وَتِجَارَةٌ تَخْشَوْنَ كَسَادَهَا, and your commerce and business and shops and factories, تَخْشَوْنَ كَسَادَهَا, that you fear a decline in them. وَمَسَاكِنُ تَرْضَوْنَهَا, and your homes and houses and dwellings that you find pleasing. تَرْضَوْنَهَا, that they give you pleasure. If any of these things, ahabba ilaykum min Allahi wa rasulihi, if any of these things are more beloved to you than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or His blessed Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or wajihadin fi sabilihi, or to wage in just struggle, just war against every oppression, aggression, injustice, fi sabilihi, purely and purely for the sake of, in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if any of those things are more beloved to you than these things, fatarabbasu, Allahu Akbar kabira. Fatarabbasu, it means Allah is saying, then wait. Hatta ya'ti Allahu bi amrihi, wait until Allah Ta'ala brings His command. Wallahu la yahdi al-qawm al-fasiqeen, and indeed Allah Ta'ala does not guide a people who are defiantly disobedient. This is how better way to translate fasiqeen, who are defiantly disobedient. So this makes it clear that for every struggle, if we have to struggle, women have to struggle to wear hijab, or men have to struggle to wear Islamic dress, or to keep the sunnah appearance in hostile lands, that struggle is more beloved to us than anything else. If Allah Ta'ala puts you in that position, right? If you have to struggle to pray at work, any and all struggle that is fi sabilihi, is in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First and foremost, yes, it means what I translated, but second, it also means, that's why Allah didn't say wa qitalin fi sabilihi, so it's not confined just to the armed struggle. It's any and all kind of struggle that is done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is more beloved. Dawah of deen, khidmah of deen, etc. Alright? That doesn't mean most of the times there's no conflict. But if there ever is a conflict, and the extreme example of that conflict we already mentioned is on the battlefield. Verses 25 to 27. Okay, I wanted to explain this because these are important battles. And Allah Ta'ala refers to them in Quran al-Kareem. That itself can signify their importance, right? Because remember, Quran al-Kareem is Kalamullah. It's azali, abadi. It's pre-eternal, eternal kalam. It means Allah Ta'ala since past forever has known about the battle of Badr. And today we're going to do verses 25 to 27 Surah At-Tawbah, the battle of Hunain. And Allah Ta'ala for future forever want these aspects of battle of Hunain to be part of His eternal, pre-eternal, endless, timeless, majestic speech, Kalamullah, Kitabullah, Quran al-Azim. So then it's important to know about these battles, right? Okay, so just first let me give you the context, the history. Verses 25 to 27 are referring to the Battle of Hunain. And you can see that here as well. وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنَ وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنَ. Alright, what was this battle? This is a battle that takes place after Fatih Makkah. Hold on, I switched the chair. Allah Akbar. Somebody mentioned to me that the chair creaks a lot, and so we got this other chair. A little bit less comfortable, but I sit on it for these few hours, inshallah. Okay. So the Battle of Hunain. This took place shortly after Fatih Makkah. Alright, so this is and it's important that we know our seerah. It doesn't end at Fatih Makkah. The battles don't end, and some very important battles happen, and we're going to be doing them today, inshallah. Battle of Hunain and others as well. And it's important to know that even after Fatih Makkah, in this last few couple of years of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life was a very important phase. And no doubt we as an ummah are very far from that reality, right? We are back at the early Meccan period of seerah in terms of the level of our iman, in terms of the strength of our iman, in terms of the honesty of our rulers. But still it's important to know. So Battle of Hunain took place after the conquest of Makkah Mukarramah. Now there were some tribes near Taif, right? And Taif is near Makkah Mukarramah, as you would remember. They were not believers, right? And when they saw, and they were because they were in Taif, they were removed from all of this. What was going on, Badr, Uhud, Sulh Hudaybiyah, all of that. They had left it basically to the Ahl Makkah to destroy, na'udhu-billah, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the religion of Islam. But now when they saw that Fatih Makkah took place, right? So they realized that fine, now the Quraysh of Makkah aren't going to be able to eliminate Islam, so they took it on their part. And so the tribe, the most prominent tribe, but there are others, the most prominent tribe is the tribe of Hawazin. So the Hawazin, when they saw that the Prophet ﷺ had done Fatih Makkah, they thought that Nabi Kareem ﷺ was going to come to them next. So rather than wait and be in a defensive position, they decided to take an offensive position, and they set out from Taif towards Makkah Mukarramah to attack the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims in Makkah Mukarramah. Sayyidina Rasulullah ﷺ was informed of this. He took an army out, right, and towards them, and where they meet is Hunain. Alright? Now, an interesting thing in history, by the way, is that the army that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam took out had obviously the Muslims of Makkah Mukarramah, the Muslims of Medina Munawwara, and even a few mushrikeen of Makkah Mukarramah from the Quraysh, simply because they did not want Makkah Mukarramah to fall to this other tribe. In other words, they at least accepted. It's ajib. Look at this. They could not accept Rasul Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they did accept that at least he's from the Quraysh. So if the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sahaba after Fatih Makkah, now they control Makkah, at least Makkah Mukarramah is still with the Quraysh, because Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in the Quraysh, and for this reason they decided to join the battle. But it also, from the other side, look at the wisdom and strategy that Allah Ta'ala revealed and guided to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that yes, you can let them join you. So they were also part of the army. Alright? So then these two armies met in the valley of Hunain, right? Between Makkah Mukarramah and Taif. Now what happens initially is that the enemy, they started winning initially. And few of the elements of the army of Makkah Mukarramah started to retreat in face of the enemy. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the major Sahaba generals, they were able to regroup and rally, and they were able to turn the tide of the battle. When they turned the tide of the battle, then these disbelievers, they retreated all the way back to Taif. And they went back to Taif, and they went inside like a fortress or behind the walls of the city. Then the army of the Muslimin, they laid siege to that city for 3 weeks, until finally the disbelievers came out and surrendered, and they also agreed to accept Deen of Islam. Alright? Now according to the historians, they say that the army of the Muslims and those few others, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam's army, was anywhere from 12 to 16,000, which up till that point was the largest army that the Muslimun had gathered. And because of that, they were initially, they were confident in the strength of their numbers, because they never had such numbers before, right? They never had such numbers before. And here again, similarly, like in the Battle of Badr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down His Sakina on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the believers. And here again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also going to send down a host of angels. And this is important because many common belief is that the angels only came at Badr. So here you will have a clear mention that the angels came in Hunain as well. And by the way, different mufassirun and ulama have said the angels did a lot of things. One is that the angels actually fought. Second is that the angels simply struck terror into the heart of the enemy army. Third is that the angels guided the believers in better strategy, or where to attack or where to strike. So there's a long, many ideas about multiple ways in which the angels may have helped. But certainly because Allah uses this word, I will just show it to you now. وَأَنزَلَ جُنُودًا. So junud means battalions, right? So first and foremost, no doubt, is that they literally fought along with the believers. Okay, so now let's do this. This is the tarjama of verses 25 to 27, which are about the Battle of Hunain. لَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَوَاطِنَ كَثِيرَةٍ وَيَوْمَ هُنَيْنٍ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala certainly helped you in many, many places, many regions, on many a battlefield. وَيَوْمَ هُنَيْنٍ, and also as well on the day of Hunain. What happened that day? What happened that day? إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ. Remember, your numbers, your large numbers, your multitudes impressed you. You were yourselves impressed and in wonder at the large numbers that you had mustered. فَلَمْ تُغْنِ عَنْكُمْ شَيْئًا. Allahu Akbar kabira. But all your numbers availed you not. فَلَمْ تُغْنِ عَنْكُمْ شَيْئًا. That it did not avail you, did not help you at all. وَذَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ. And then you felt that the earth had, it says that the earth became straightened on you. You feel that the earth closed upon you. The earth closed upon you. Even though, obviously, the earth is, in spite of its vastness. ثُمَّ وَلَّيْتُمْ مُدْبِرِينَ. Then you turned back. مُدْبِرِينَ, fleeing. ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَى رَسُولِهِ وَعَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَأَنزَلَ جُنُودًا. Then Allah Ta'ala sent down His tranquility upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the believers. So sakina means that they don't have fright, they don't have flight. وَأَنزَلَ جُنُودًا. And Allah Ta'ala sent down hosts, battalions. لَمْ تَرَوْهَا. You were not able to see them. These are the angels. وَأَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. And Allah Ta'ala punished those who disbelieve. وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ. And this indeed is what is the recompense for those who disbelieve. ثُمَّ يَتُوبُ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِ. And you will find, by the way, many uses of this verb of Tawbah in Surah At-Tawbah. Here, as you remember, when the subject, fa'il of this verb is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means, and then Allah ta'ala relented. Min ba'di dhalika ala man yasha'u, then Allah ta'ala relented thereafter upon whomsoever He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, willed. So it means that Allah ta'ala accepted the tawbah of whomsoever He willed. Wallahu ghafurur rahim, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all forgiving, all merciful. Then next is Battle of Tabuk. Next, verse 29 is going to be about the Battle of Tabuk. Most of the ulama of tafsir say that verse 29 is about the Battle of Tabuk. So it's very important that you understand this, because this verse is often also plucked out of nowhere, because let me translate for you first, and so you see, قَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَلَا بِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. Fight all of those who do not believe in Allah Ta'ala and do not believe in the last day. وَلَا يُحَرِّمُونَ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. Nor do they deem as unlawful and prohibited that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His blessed Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam has prohibited. وَلَا يَدِينُونَ دِينَ الْحَقِّ. And they do not follow the deen. Which deen? Deen al-Haq, the true deen, deen of Islam. مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ. And who is this? That amongst those who were given the book. So these are the ones you have to fight. Right? حَتَّى يُؤْتُوا الْجِزْيَةَ أَنْ يَدٍ. Until they pay the jizya willingly. وَهُمْ صَاغِرُونَ. And they are subdued. They're subjugated. They've become subjugated. So many Christians, right-wing, Islamophobic, evangelical Christians pluck this verse out and say, look, in the Quran, the Muslims are being told that you should fight all the people of the book. Right? Let's understand the occasion of revelation of this verse, right? And who is being referred to. It's not being referred to all the Ahl Kitab and all the world for all the centuries to come. That's not what's being referred to here. So again, now I have to explain a little bit about Tabuk. So after the Battle of Hunain, right, and that's why this is one of the strongest reasons why the ulama feel this is referring to the Battle of Tabuk, because it's coming right after the verses that were clearly about Hunain. Shortly after the Battle of Hunain, these two global empires, right, the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire, were battling each other, all right, and the Byzantine Empire defeated the Persian Empire, such that the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, who you may have heard of, he brought Christianity back to Jerusalem. And then some scouts, they came and told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that now, after having taken Jerusalem, the Byzantines were allying with Arab tribes in, like today you would call the Jordan area, right? All that, just like everything that lies between Jerusalem and Makkah Mukarramah. And there were Arab mushrikeen still there, right? Because up to now, the Prophet ﷺ has reached Makkah Mukarramah and gone to Taif. Taif is the other way, not towards Jerusalem. But further beyond Makkah Mukarramah, up to Jerusalem, we're still Arabs and we're still mushrikeen. So the news reached Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the Byzantine Empire has struck an alliance with them. And now the Byzantines are going to send an army. Again, now remember, this is the army that has just defeated the Persian Empire and reconquered Jerusalem. And they're going to ally with all those Arab tribes in between. And they're going to come to Makkah Mukarramah. Alright? Now, there's a place called Tabuk, which is on the road to Syria. And so what Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam decided was that, okay, we will march forth. So now this is an even larger army than the one at Hunain. Alright? And now the Muslimin, they march forth and they finally reach a place called Tabuk. Tabuk, which is where they camped out. And according to the historians, they camped there for 20 days. but the Byzantine army never appeared. So different historians, some say that, the Byzantine army got scared, they didn't come. Some say they never were planning to attack, and they were content with their own empire as it was, and they had no interest whatsoever in Makkah Mukarramah. Allahu Alam, whatever the reason, but they did not come. Okay? They did not come. Now, Jizya, by the way, because Jizya is being mentioned here, Jizya is something that non-Muslims who live within the Islamic State, so they're not forced to accept Islam, but they have to pay Jizya. And that Jizya, number one, the non-Muslims, they don't have to pay zakah because that's a religious obligation, and Muslims do not apply their religious obligations onto non-Muslims, right? So non-Muslims living in an Islamic State, they don't have to pray salah, they don't have to fast Ramadan, they don't pay the zakah. Now, what the non-Muslims do have to do is, because they're living in an Islamic State, the Muslims who run the Islamic State are duty-bound to take care of and defend all the citizens, including the non-Muslim citizens. So the non-Muslim citizens, and on top of it, the non-Muslim citizens are not contributing to the poor because they don't pay any zakah, so they pay something called a jizya. They pay a jizya. So this is how the peace is made. All they have to do is agree to peacefully abide. It's just like Muslims in non-Muslim countries today, that we have to peacefully abide by the laws of the land, and you have to pay taxes, then you can be a citizen. It's exactly the same thing, right? So it's so strange when right-wing radicals try to present this as some, horrific concept. Alright? Okay. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also saying, an yadin, literally means that they should pay with their own hand. Wahum saghirun. So saghirun, I said, can mean subjugated, can mean humbled. It simply means that they are not dominant, and rather the laws of Islam, the Sharia, will be dominant in that land because it now falls under Muslim governance. That's it. That's all it means. Okay? Alright. Now there comes a question which is very interesting. That will be too detailed, and that's like a whole separate history lesson, so it's not specifically part of this verse. Alright. But I would just say something. I would go ahead and say it. So there's difference between ulama, fuqaha, the jurists, about whom you can accept the jizya from. Some view that the jizya and this arrangement can only be made with the Ahl Kitab, and others, most importantly amongst them Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, believe that no, you can accept it from others as well, including polytheist mushrikeen. Now, why did I say importantly Imam Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala? Because again, the greatest interaction between the interaction with the greatest numbers of mushrikeen has been historically, right up till present, between the Muslims and the Hindus of Hind of India. And because the vast majority of Muslims in India historically followed the Hanafi madhab, that's why they were able to peacefully coexist with the Hindus, because they viewed the Hindus in the same manner of giving jizya and being allowed to peacefully coexist as citizens of the Muslim Mughal Empire. Alright? So there's many wisdoms behind why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spread the followers of different madhahib to different geographic areas. Imagine what could have happened in history if the people in Hind majority followed the Shafi fiqh, which doesn't allow accepting jizya except from the Ahl Kitab, the Jews and Christians. Then what would have happened? And what type of, and how difficult that would have been for the Hindus first and foremost themselves. Alright? So there's a lot of wisdom in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placing multiple interpretations or fiqh of Islamic law. Alright? Okay, so this is done. We translated it first, and then we explained to you the background second. So again, this is not about any and every situation. This is specifically about those Byzantine army who, at least the Muslims had thought, were going to fight and engage them. Okay, verses 30 to 31. Allah Ta'ala does mention an interesting thing, so very related and one of the reasons, by the way, behind the Hanafi ulama's position is that the Ahl Kitab, as mentioned by Allah Ta'ala in Quran al-Kareem right here in verses 30 to 31, right after the verse about Jizya, Allah Ta'ala clearly mentions that the Ahl Kitab themselves do a type of shirk, a major type of shirk, something in the outright shirk, right? And so therefore, Imam Hanifa, may Allah Ta'ala bless Imam Hanifa, truly some of his understandings are absolutely brilliant and are absolutely a mercy for society throughout centuries of history. So Imam Hanifa, he saw this and said that, look, if you can take it from them, if you can take Jizya and peacefully coexist as citizens and under Muslim governance with Jews and Christians, when Allah Ta'ala clearly in the verses immediately after Jizya mentions their shirk, then why can't you do it with other types of shirk? Now look how clearly Allah Ta'ala mentions, so the title we gave is the shirk of the Ahl Kitab, verses 30 to 31. وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ أُزَيْرُ بْنُ اللَّهِ, and the Jews say that Uzair is the son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Uzair in English is the Ezra is the son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now interestingly, this opinion of the Jews was more prevalent before Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from what I've been able to find, I've tried to find this, it's almost non-existent after that and almost non-existent today. I mean, some people who believe in conspiracies will say, no, the Jews still believe it, but they hide it. But to be fair to them, if you look at their theology, their books, their works, their rites, their rituals, their prayers, their sacraments, you cannot find this concept. In complete contrast to the next line, وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ اللَّهِ, and the Christians say that Al-Masih, yani Isa alayhi salam, Jesus is the Son of God. This you can see everywhere. It was all over Christianity before the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during this time, and ever since, right? And this is why, by the way, again, may Allah reward the jurists, that they say that you can eat even today's meat of the kosher of the Orthodox Jews, because they do not believe that Uzair Ezra is the son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hence they truly are monotheist. Alright? Whereas the Christians of today, it is quite clear that they, except for the Unitarian and one or two have very small followings, less than 1%, 99% of global Christianity absolutely firmly believes in the Trinity and believes that to be a necessary part of Christian creed. Right? Okay, going back to verses 30 to 31. Right? Where were we? Yes. ذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُمْ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ, this is the statement that they proclaim from their own mouths. يُضَاهِئُونَ قَوْلَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ, and they resemble those who disbelieved before. So Allah is even giving a tashbih, if you will, a resemblance of this type of shirk and earlier shirk. قَاتَلَهُمُ اللَّهُ أَنَّا يُؤْفَكُونَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so literally it means this, قَاتَلَهُمُ اللَّهُ أَنَّا يُؤْفَكُونَ, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroy them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroy them. Anna yufakun, how deluded are they? Now literally, qatalahumullahu means may Allah ta'ala fight them. Qatalahum would be may Allah ta'ala kill them. Qatalahumullahu means may Allah ta'ala fight them. And so sometimes people translate this as may Allah ta'ala destroy them, may Allah ta'ala smite them. Anna yufakun, how deluded they are, what a big deception they have fallen into, what that they are doing shirk, that they believe Allah Ta'ala can have sons. Okay, verse 31, Allah is going to mention specifically another aspect of their shirk. اتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ, and they have taken their rabbis, the Jews, that's ahbar is rabbis, and ruhban, they've taken monks, this is for the Christians, they've taken rabbis and Christians, arbabam min dunillahi, as rabbs. Arbab is plural here of rabb, as lords, min dunillahi, besides, apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is another aspect of shirk. Maybe this is referring to some concept of sainthood. I don't know enough about the Jewish religion to know to what extent that is there, but definitely there are certain ideas about popes and saints that ascribe some level of divinity and lordship to these human beings as well. Allah goes back to Wal Masih ibn Maryama, and also they've taken Nabi Isa alayhi salam, the son of Mary Anha, also as arbab min dunillah, also as lords other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah makes it clear, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدَ إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا, and they have not been commanded except that they should worship one God, Ilahu Wahidan, La ilaha illahu, and there is no deity, no God except for He, that one God, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanahu amma yushrikun, and glory be to Allah ta'ala above all the partners that they ascribe to Him. Alright. Verse 33. So this is all connected, right? Verse 33. Verse 32, Allah Ta'ala just mentions more about them, that they wish to extinguish the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They wish to take away the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the expressions that they say from their mouth. But Allah Ta'ala has refused that to do anything except to complete and perfect His light. وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ, even if the disbelievers may be averse. So I guess I should have put 32 there as well. Alright? Okay, verse 33. هُوَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى. Allah Ta'ala, He is that being who sent His blessed messenger, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bil-huda, with guidance, وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ, and with the true deen of Islam. So Islam is a deen. لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. So لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ, so that Allah Ta'ala will make that deen, ad-din al-haq, ad-din al-Islam, لِيُظْهِرَ, so Allah Ta'ala will make it zahir, Allah Ta'ala will make it manifest and prevail over all deen. So this is the clear verse as well. The deen of Islam comes to replace all other religions, and other religions are no longer valid anymore. وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُشْرِكُونَ, even if those who do shirk may dislike it, whether they're the shirk of the first kind, the pagans and idolaters of Makkah Mukarramah, or they're the shirk of the people of the book kind, that they believe that Jesus alayhi salam is the son of God, or they believe that Ezra, Sayyidina Uzair alayhi salam, is the son of God. So again, the fact that verse 33 is coming right after the verse about Ahl Kitab is clear that this applies to the Judaism and Christianity as well. Verse 34, Allah Ta'ala again talks about the rabbis and monks. Ya ladhina amanu inna kathiran min al-ahbari wal-rahban. Oh, you believe that indeed many of the rabbis and monks, لَيَأْكُلُونَ أَمْوَالَ النَّاسِ بِالْبَاطِلِ, surely they consume the wealth, they falsely devour and corrupt, in financial corruption, they take the money of people bil-batili, on falsehood. And this is something we should be scared about also, because remember Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, very important hadith, actually that kind of governs all of the verses in Quran about Ahl Kitab. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the Muslims will follow the same mistakes. Some Muslims will follow the same mistakes that the Ahl Kitab made. So the ulama and awliya and shuyukh of this ummah should be very warned and careful that they should never ever take the money of people wrongly or engage in any type of financial fraud. The second thing that they do, the rabbis and monks do, وَيُسُدُّونَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and they stop people from the path of Allah Ta'ala. What does that mean? Number one, they divert people from their own communities from truly worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by dragging them into these financially fraud schemes. Second is they're keeping people from following the path of Allah Ta'ala, which is the one true religion revealed to all the prophets, climaxing in deen of Islam, and they're preventing people from following Islam and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ, and those who amass as treasures gold and silver. They amass as treasures gold and silver, so you can call it a hoard, gold and silver. And وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَهَا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and they don't spend it in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ, so give them the glad tidings. So it's an irony, as you can say, it's kind of maybe you can say sarcasm, but give them the glad tidings of adhab and alim, of a painful punishment. So again, if there are Muslim scholars also who just collect millions and millions of dollars in charity from people, but they don't spend it in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they should be scared. Obviously the verse doesn't 100% apply, but still they should be scared. May Allah Ta'ala protect all of us, and may Allah Ta'ala guide and protect all of the mu'mineen and muslimin, and may Allah Ta'ala give tawfiq to make true tawbah to any and all who may have made any such mistakes or any other mistakes. Verse 38, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to talk about bravery. I just pulled this out. But it's important because it's a commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, this is what Imam Ghazali had selected this verse as an important commandment. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ma lakum idha qila lakum infiru fi sabilillah. That, oh, you believe, what happens to you? What's the matter with you? What confuses you? What confounds you? Idha qila lakum, when it is said to you, infiru fi sabilillahi, that you should go forth in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do? Athaqaltum ilal ard. Literally it means you sink down heavily to the earth. You cling to the earth. It's a metaphor, it means you stay put. So you're told to go forth and you just stay put. You sink down into the earth. Araditum bil hayat dunya min al akhirah. Allah is asking, are you more pleased with the enjoyment of the life of this world than you are with the akhirah? فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. And what is all that this life, the mata', all the enjoyment of the life of this world compared to the akhirah? إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ, except but a little, but a trifling. Now imagine this, Allah. So let's look at the soft side. This is human nature. Everybody is scared, right? Most people are scared. So Allah Ta'ala is revealing this in Quran Kareem to even Sahaba Kiram radiyallahu ta'ala anjmain, right? And again, some of the ulama continue and say this is also about Tabuk, right? Because remember now, so now think, you go to Hunain, you had large numbers. Allah Ta'ala Himself is revealed, it didn't benefit you at all. But yes, fine, Allah Ta'ala sent down Sakina and sent angels. And what were these tribes of Taif? They're nothing compared to the Byzantine army, and the Byzantine army who just defeated the Persian Empire and also reconquered Jerusalem. So people were scared. People were scared. It's human nature. It's human nature. So Allah Ta'ala does not conceal the humanity, but Allah Ta'ala conceal the frailty of humanity, but Allah Ta'ala addresses it, exhorts us to remember the akhirah, to trust in Allah Ta'ala, to believe in Allah Ta'ala. And so I just called all of this bravery. I just call all of this bravery. And if you take this, in a general sense, we have to, guard ourselves against all types of sloth compared to any action of deen. Okay, now I have actually left a whole series of verses, and these series of verses are going to talk about. Actually, I meant to keep verse 40. Unfortunately, I left out. Verse 40 is supposed to be here. So let me do it for you in Arabic. I missed this slide. After verse 40, then I skipped 20 verses and I went straight to verse 60. But the next slide should be verse number 40. We ask that you forgive us and may Allah forgive us for our many imperfections in preparing this for you. But as and when I catch errors, I try to mention it to you verbally at least. So next should have been 40. It's not there, so it goes to 60. So I was going to teach you 40 and then tell you this, that I've skipped 20 verses and what goes on in those verses. So I will do verse 40 with you verbally. Verse 40, very important, very, 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 very important verse. Okay? Illa tansuruhu, if you do not help him, means if you do not help Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's going back to this: if you do not go forth when you are called upon, and if you do not help him, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the believers are being asked to go forth to help the Prophet sallallahu in his mission to establish the message of Islam on earth and defend that message against all hostile aggressors. So, إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ, if you do not help him, فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ, then certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help him. And you could even say certainly Allah ta'ala has already helped him. إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Remember when? So إِذْ often in Arabic, by the way, means remember when. Remember that time, remember that incident, remember that moment, remember that event. When? أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ drove him out those who disbelieved. They drove the Prophet out. When they drove the Prophet, they expelled him from Makkah Mukarramah and he had to make hijrah. And then remember, and this is a very famous ayah of Quran, ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ, the second of the two. So this is Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala an. May Allah ta'ala be pleased with him, and may Allah ta'ala be pleased with all of those who love him, and may Allah ta'ala punish all of those who deem him to be a disbeliever. Na'udhu billah. Thani ithnaini, the second of the two, is huma. Remember when the two of them, yani Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq fil ghari, were in the cave. إِذْ يَقُولُ, when the Prophet ﷺ said, لِصَاحِبِهِ, to his companion. Allah Ta'ala in Quran is describing Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq as Sahib al-Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So how can anyone ever think that Sayyidina Abu Bakr is not from the believers? La tahzan, and remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. I don't say it, Rasulullah ﷺ said it, that if any one of you falsely accuses another believer of disbelief, if you falsely do takfir of another believer, you yourself become a disbeliever. And that is why anyone who accuses Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, any of the Sahaba of disbelief, they themselves become disbelievers and deserve to be known and labeled as such. Alright? La tahzan. So Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to his companion Sayyidina Abu Bakr, La tahzan, do not grieve. Inna Allah ma'ana. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. So don't worry. What happened? Because Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was worried. He was worried first. He had been given this tremendous responsibility that he alone has to guard the most valuable, precious creation ever created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and escort the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam safely to Medina Munawwarah. And this incident is, by the way, shortly on the journey, shortly outside Makkah Mukarramah. And this is therefore where the hostile forces of Makkah Mukarramah were giving chase and were trying to find the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And may Allah Ta'ala also reward Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. And if you know that Sayyidina Ali, he went down and he laid in the bed of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when the Prophet left, so that when the disbelievers of Makkah Mukarramah came to the Prophet's house, instead of finding the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam there, they found Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, but they chose not to kill him. This was also the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So also Sayyidina Ali of extremely high rank, and he was divinely protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time. So here in the cave, at this point, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sayyidina Abu Bakr had taken refuge in a cave. And some narrations say that there was a tracker or Bedouin who was with them, who was trying to cover their tracks. And also it comes in the hadith that when the people searching found, they came near the cave, they saw a spider's web covering the entrance, and therefore they thought that, okay, nobody could be inside the cave because the spider's web is intact. And this is why sometimes, traditionally, culturally, if you will, Muslims try not to kill spiders, because they think that to honor the entire species of spiders for the act of that one spider who was blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, try not to kill ants, to honor the ant who Allah ta'ala loved, because he or she warned their fellow ants when the army of Sulaiman alayhi salam was coming, right? But you can kill mosquitoes, because the hadith of Prophet said, "Uqtilul mudhi qabla idha'ihi," that you should kill that which can harm you before it is allowed to harm you. And mosquitoes spread many diseases. They spread dengue and etc. etc. All right. Khair. So Allah Ta'ala sent His sakina. So let's go back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where were we? فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتُهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down His sakina alayhi. Not even on both of them. Sorry, you can see it. Alayhi, on him, singular. On Sayyidina Abu Bakr radhanhu. This is the maqam of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Allah ta'ala sent down His sakina upon him. وَأَيَّدَهُ, and He supported Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu bijunudin lam tarawha. Remember, it just came a few verses earlier, with battalions, with forces, again, lam tarawha, that you cannot see. And who are these forces? The angels. And some, by the way, ulama view that these angels are all the same. The angels of Badr is all one battalion of angels at Badr, at Hunayn, here, earlier to Badr, even at the time of Hijrah. وَجَعَلَ كَلِمَةِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا السُّفْلَى. And Allah Ta'ala made the, you can say Allah Ta'ala made the word of those who disbelieve, as-sufla, the lowest, the lowliest, the most disgraced. وَكَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْأُلْيَى. And the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the highest. Which was that they said that they will kill the Prophet ﷺ and Allah Ta'ala will preserve him. But most important, their kalima of kufr versus the kalima of La ilaha illallah. Wallahu azizun hakim. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is almighty and all wise. Okay, now from verses 41 to 59 is just more about warfare, hypocrites, and how people and spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also, but this is something we did earlier in verse 54, mentioning that the hypocrites, so this was done in Surah An-Nisa, Surah 4, verse 142, that the hypocrites, they pray lazily. Again, also on verse 55, mention of wealth and children being a trial, also something that we have done. So many of the topics and themes we have done before. Alright? And it would be nice, maybe it's in 59 also, where Allah Ta'ala ends this whole longer section by describing these disbelievers and hypocrites, that if only they could have believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if only they could have trusted and believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'll just do verse 59 and then we'll continue with the slides. So in verse 59, وَلَا أَنَّهُمْ رَضُوا مَا أَتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مَا أَتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. And if only they had been pleased and satisfied, radi, with which Allah Ta'ala and His blessed Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam given them. وَقَالُوا, and had they said, Hasbunallah, that Allah Ta'ala is sufficient for us. So yu'tina Allahu min fadlihi, surely Allah Ta'ala will give us from His fadl. وَرَسُولُهُ, and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam will also give us from His fadl. Inna ilallahi raghibun. Inna ilallahi raghibun. Indeed, to Allah Ta'ala raghibun do we turn all our hopes. So this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning in the Quran that rather than seeking the bounty or seeking any property or seeking any spoils of war, and there was some disagreement about the distribution that was made at one point of the bounty and spoils of war, that it more befits the companions, not that befits the companions, that they should be pleased with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His blessed Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam decide about distributing that property. Alright? Okay, so 58 in fact mentions that. So 58 to 59 should have been there as well. 60 is about the sadaqat. Alright? 60 is about the sadaqat. So the plural of sadaqah. Some ulama say that this verse refers specifically to zakat, and that makes more sense because mandatory zakat is the mandatory charity, because voluntary charity can be given to many categories of people. So let's talk a little bit about zakat today. Innama sadaqatu, that indeed these charities, and so let's take it as the mandatory charities, the offerings of charities, the donations given in charity. Lil, so the lam here is coming for are only and only for lil fuqara'i, are for the poor, the indigent, the needy. Second, wal masakin, and for the masakin. So what's the difference between the fuqara and the masakin? The masakin are understood to be even more poor than the fuqara. Even more poor than the fuqara. So fuqara are those who have some amount of money, but very, very low income, but have some income, and they fall below the poverty line, therefore they are eligible to receive zakat. And masakin are those who are altogether destitute, right? The poorest of the poor, completely destitute, have no income wealth whatsoever. Third, wal amilina alayha. Okay, the third category is those who collect these charities, right? So there was a notion that the collection and more importantly the distribution of zakat was a full-time job at that time. So at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, there would be people who were full-time devoted to collecting zakah, and then you even could have a whole staff on this. So they were allowed to be paid for if they were doing it full-time. Now obviously this can be a system that can lend itself to abuse. There are many good things in this world that people abuse and twist, and that is actually one of Shaitan's goals, to try to twist and pervert good things. And so the notion is here, and there's no amount mentioned for this, but the Amir or the Qazi will provide them the least amount of stipend possible. And the people selected for this collection and distribution obviously should not be so talented that their market salary would be so much, and this can also be a way that ideally, I'm sure showing contemporary applications of Islamic law, this can be a way where the government can train some people who are unemployed. So one ideal type of training would be to give technical, skilled training on how to collect and account for financially and distribute zakat, and take the masakin and the fuqara first and train them and make themselves amilin and empower them through the salary given to the zakat collectors. Alright? But it's supposed to be a very limited thing. So this is where do we go? The third category. So fuqara, masakin, wal amilina alayha, then wal mu'allafati qulubuhum. Okay, mu'allafati qulub are those people whom to reconcile their hearts, to bring their hearts or incline their hearts, or those, and some you can also translate it as those whose hearts are already inclined, to incline their hearts, or those hearts are already inclined to reconcile them further. So this is something that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself did, and especially he gave it to leaders of some of the tribes, hoping that the leaders would accept Islam and bring their entire tribe into the deen of Islam. A second is that he would give zakat to new converts, even if they were not from the fuqara and masakin, but in order to enable them to become firm in their belief. So now this is a huge discussion between amongst the ulama. Who can fall under this category? Can you give that category anymore? Right? Does that category even exist anymore? And this is something that ulama disagree about. The majority of the Hanafi ulama are of the position that this category does not exist anymore, because this was unique to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's own prophetic mission of dawah, and it was he who could do this, but otherwise none of us, it befits us that we could figure out who to give zakat to for this reason, and therefore it goes back to the primary recipients, which are the fuqara and the masakin. Alright? And so the next category is to free slaves, right? So riqab literally means the neck, to ransom or to purchase slaves. So this is one of the many ways where Deen of Islam tried to bring about the absolute end of slavery. And one is obviously that even zakat money, which again, primarily is for the poor and the indigent, primarily is for the fuqara and masakin, but obviously those who are enslaved are in another type of obviously very difficult situation, so to free them. Well, gharimina, and gharimin refers to those people who are in debt, okay? So they're in so much debt that their loans and amount of debt exceeds their credit. So in a sense, they are from the fuqara and masakin, but they still have net assets. So how can I explain this? Like, you may find somebody who's in the lower middle class and they're a small businessman, and they end up in debt because they suffered some loss in their business and they have to pay their investors so much, right? But at the same time, they're not poor or they're not miskeen. They have a small house, they have a motorcycle, they have food in their fridge, right? But they're so much in debt. So this is also a category to whom zakat can be given, all right? And finally, وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, not finally, second to finally, وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and those who are in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who are in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So obviously those are those who are striving in the just war, who are in the army of the Muslimun. Alright? And this, by the way, according to the Hanafi ulama, this is also conditional, that they need additional financial support to sustain themselves. And if they don't need that, or they should only be given that to the extent that they need that, it's not an absolute provision. And the reason they do that, because that is what almost, from what I know, everybody agrees, but Allahu Alam, I cannot say that I know all Islamic scholarship. So the overwhelming majority agrees about the next category, wabn as-sabil, about the traveler. So this is not that, there's some rich person traveling and you can give them zakat. No, it is that if there's a person who's traveling and for some reason, as it may happen on a journey, they lose their money or something happens, they don't have enough money to return home, then that amount only of zakat can be given to them to facilitate their return back home or for their particular circumstance while journeying, and that's it. Alright? Otherwise, zakat primarily belongs to the people who are known as fuqara and masakin and who fall below a certain line. So if you want to call this the poverty line, call it a certain income line. Alright? So that income line, that itself is also interesting. So in terms of, there's an income line that is known as the nisab. The nisab, that if a person falls below that nisab, that amount of income or wealth, they fall below the line, they're eligible to receive zakat. Alright? So the wording that is used in the hadith is 20 mithqal of gold and 200 dirhams of silver. Now, most people agree how to convert this into modern measurements, and so the modern measurement would be 87 grams of gold and 612 grams, approximately 87.5 grams of gold and 612 grams of silver. Alright? So if a person has this amount, then they have to pay zakat. Okay? Zakat is paid on your cash, on gold, on silver, on any investment, property, investment goods, anything you have in store for commerce, for sale, upon which you plan to have a profit. Zakat is also paid on crops and produce. It's also paid on animals. There's a long, very long fiqh of zakat, and inshallah, I'm sure you can find many authentic books and even online lectures and workshops on this topic. Just to sum up, the summary of zakat is paid is 1/40, 2.5%, and it should be paid after one lunar calendar year passes on your wealth that exceeds the nisab. That means that you have enough surplus wealth in order to pay zakat. Alright? Okay, so that is the end of Faridatam min Allahi wallahu alimun hakim. This is a mandatory obligation from Allah Ta'ala, and indeed Allah Ta'ala is all-knowing and all-wise. وَمِنْهُمُ الَّذِينَ يُؤْذُونَ النَّبِيَّ وَيَقُولُونَ هُوَ أَذَنٌ أَوْ هُوَ أُذُنٌ. So from amongst them, there are those who harm Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who harm and hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who mock and ridicule Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they say, huwa, about him, udhunun. That literally means they say about him that he is an ear. So what does that mean? This was a way that Arabic expression of insult, that the person listens and is affected by whatever they hear, right? So they are affected by whatever they hear. So this was a way that they were mocking and ridiculing and insulting Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam al-Aman al-Hafiz. And then there were even some of the disbelievers who would say that we will go and we will say whatever we want to him, and he is an ear, he will listen to us. Alright? He is an ear, he will listen to us. So Allah Ta'ala responded and said, Qul, proclaim to them, udhunu khairin, udhunu khair, that yes, udhunu khairin lakum, that he is an ear of goodness lakum for you. Right? In other words, he hears Quran al-Kareem, he hears revelation, he hears only that which is good and not which is evil. And that is good for you. Yu'minu billahi, and he, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa yu'minu lil mu'minin, and he believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he believes the believers. And he believes the believers. So you can put this in this way: he believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he has faith in the believers. This is the love that Nabi, so literally he believes the believers, but it means he has faith in the believers. When others on the mu'mineen, when Sahaba Kiram say something to him, he lends his ear to them and he believes them. So he hears revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His ear is for listening and understanding and hearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and listening and hearing and understanding to his believers. Alright? Okay. The second thing that Allah Ta'ala says, proclaim this. First say, yes, you're udhun, but you're udhunu khair. And second, you're wa rahmatun. And he, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is a rahmah, is a mercy. Lilladina amanu minkum. For those who believe from amongst you. Walladina yu'dhuna Rasulullahi. And those who harm and revile Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Lahum adhabun alim. They will have a painful punishment from Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. From who? From Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. Alright. Then here Allah Ta'ala onward talks a little bit about the hypocrites, right? And the hypocrites are afraid that Allah Ta'ala will reveal a surah that exposes them. And then in verse 67 Allah Ta'ala says about the hypocrites, Al-munafiquna wal-munafiqat. So again, gender parity here. They are female hypocrites as well. Ba'duhum bin ba'din. That they are of one another. They are from one another. They are, mutually like one another. And what? Ya'muruna bil munkar. So it's reversed. They do amr bil munkar. They enjoin what is repudiated and known to be false and wrong. Wa yanhauna anil ma'ruf, and they prohibit and they forbid that which is right and known to be correct. Wa yaqbiduna aydiyahum, and they also restrain or close their hands. What does that mean? They clutch their hands, they close their hands, they're reluctant to take part in fighting, or they're reluctant to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or both. So they fail to be people of action. But these are the munafiqun, they don't do anything. They just falsely claim to believe. Nasullaha, they have forgotten Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَنَسِيَهُمْ, therefore Allah Ta'ala forgets them. إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ, indeed the hypocrites are openly, defiantly disobedient. So this is also viewed to be a very strong spiritual verse of Quran, that Allah Ta'ala forgets them. And this is the theme. Allah Ta'ala says something similar elsewhere in Quran as well. Right? So Allah Ta'ala forgets them, means He doesn't send His hidayah on them anymore. He won't send His rahmah on them anymore. Why? Because they choose to forget Him, and they choose to neglect the hidayah and rahmah that He has sent in the form of Quran al-Kareem and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now you go forward, and there's a bit more just about the few verses about the hypocrites, and then you go here to verse 71. Allah Ta'ala gives the opposite. If you look at the parallel and the symmetry in the language, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ, and believing men and believing women, ba'duhum, right? So again, they are like to one another, awliya'u ba'd, ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. Some are allies, and each are ally and protector to the other. All are allies and protectors of one another. So this is the nisbat of iman. And ya'muruna bil ma'ruf, and they command and enjoin that which is true and known to be good. Wa yanhauna 'anil munkar, and they forbid that which is repudiated and known to be evil. Wa yuqimuna salat, and they establish salat regularly. Wa yu'tuna zakata, and they offer and pay the zakah. Wa yuti'una Allah wa rasulahu, and who are the believers? They obey Allah Ta'ala and they obey His blessed messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ulaika sayarhamuhumullah, and these are those people upon whom Allah Ta'ala will have mercy. Inna Allah Azizun Hakim, indeed Allah Ta'ala is almighty and all wise. So this ends juz 10. Now we begin juz 11 inshallah. Juz 11 also has Surah Tawbah in it from 94 to the end, all of Surah Yunus, and the first 5 verses of Surah Hud. So obviously we're not going to do those first 5 verses of Surah Hud today. We will do that with the rest of Surah Hud as part of Juz 12. We will definitely inshallah finish Juz 11, finish Surah Tawbah today. After that I may have to take a small break, and then we will inshallah do as much of Surah Yunus as we can. This is the slide where we mentioned the verses that Imam al-Ghazali selected from Juz 11, from Surahs Tawbah and Surahs At-Tawbah and Yunus, from jewels of the Quran, those verses that help us know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Qism al-Ilmi, and pearls of the Quran, those verses that specifically guide us on how to practice and follow the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim, what he calls al-Qism al-Amali, and we have added many additional verses to the selection for this series, inshallah. Alright, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now if you see here, there is a big jump. If I go back, let me just show you real fast. I ended with 71 and now I jumped to 100. That is because the remaining verses of Surah At-Tawbah we did not select for this series, neither were they selected by Imam al-Ghazali as jewels or pearls, nor did I select them. Firstly, because many of the topics in them are topics we've already covered through other verses of Quran Kareem. Second, they refer to some more historical incidents of the hypocrites who did not join Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in different battles and expositions. And I think by giving you one example of that, we have illustrated that to you. I would just mention one thing, and that will come up in the verses that we do. Some of the verses around the 80s are talking about a group who stayed back when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam led the believers on the Battle of Tabuk, right, which we had mentioned to you when we did verses 38 to 39. All right. Some of them were those who were well off, meaning they were relatively more well off or had leadership or influence from the Sahaba. Some of them remained behind because they wanted to take care of the women, the children, and the sick. Those obviously themselves are not required to fight. Obviously many of them were hypocrites. Some of them were, however, true believers, and their discussions are going to come in the verses that we're going to do in Surah Tawbah. Right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions glad tidings, gardens underneath which river flow for those who do go forth. Allah ta'ala mentions in Quran that there's no blame if the weak or the sick or don't go forth and fight, those who have nothing to spend, can't afford, do not spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions all these things in the intervening verses, so in the 80s and the 90s of Surah At-Tawbah. One verse that is actually, that's the problem with the selection, really one wants to do all the verses, but, just to show you one important, all the verses of Quran Kareem are obviously important. Verse 92, which I didn't put, and that's still in juz number 10, just to show you that, about this battle of Tabuk, even though it was after Fateh Makkah, there were still some Sahaba. It doesn't mean, I think a lot of people have misconception after Fateh Makkah, the Muslim community became very rich and very powerful. There were still many Sahaba Kiram who didn't have wealth, didn't have means, and therefore didn't even have the means to arm themselves or to find a mount or a ride or a steed on which they could ride all the way to Tabuk, because you couldn't go there by foot, it was too far away. right? So there's a very nice verse in verse 92. So let me just do that for you, and then inshallah we can begin Juz 11 and start and finish Surah At-Tawbah today. Verse 92. So verse 92 is actually about a group of Sahaba who came to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam hoping that from Baitul Mal he would be able to give them some mounts that would enable them to ride out and participate in the Battle of Tabuk, but he had none left by the time they came. There was nothing left to give, and so they actually cried over their sadness that they would not be able to join the Battle of Tabuk. So that Allah Ta'ala loved that so much about them that He mentions their incident in verse number 92. So the slide is not there, but I'm going to do this for you. وَلَا عَلَى الَّذِينَ إِذَا مَا آتُوكَ. And Allah Ta'ala is not, there's no harm, there's no blame. So Allah previously had mentioned people who did not go for the battle, such as the weak or the sick. And Allah said there's no harm on those who إِذَا مَا آتُوكَ, when they came to you, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لِتَحْمِلَهُمْ, so that you would give them a hamal, that you would provide them with steeds and rides and mounts. قُلْتَ, you, Prophet Muhammad, said to them, لَا أَجَدُ مَا أَحْمِلُكُمْ, that I do not find anything whatsoever, any remaining animal, steed, ride whatsoever upon which I can mount you, alayhi, on top of it. تَبَلُّوا, so then they turned back. وَأَعْيُنُهُمْ تَفِيضُ مِنَ الدَّمْءِ, and their eyes were flowing with tears, حَزَنًا, in grief, أَلَّا يَجِدُوا مَا يُنْفِقُونَ, that they could not find what they could spend, and they could not find something that they themselves could spend, and tried to find a mount. So this is an example of the desire of the true and sincere believers to answer the call of Allah Ta'ala's Messenger and to go forth and to support Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam for the sake of deen. Right? Okay. Then before 100 also, if we were to do verse 99, so now inshallah we're bringing the 11th juz. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned earlier, before verse 99, that there were some of the Bedouins who offer excuses and they didn't go forth, and they will take oaths from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah ta'ala expresses His anger at them, and He tells Prophet to turn away from them. And in verse 97, even Allah Ta'ala says that Al-Arabu ashaddu kufran wa nifaka, and that the Bedouins are even stronger in their disbelief and their hypocrisy. That's 97. But then in 99, Allah Ta'ala says that also وَمِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ, but also at the same time from the Bedouin nomads, مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, there are those who do believe in Allah Ta'ala and the last day, وَيَتَّخِذُوا مَا يُنْفِقُوا قُرُبَاتٍ, and they take what he spends, what they spend as a means of drawing near in the Allahi to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa salawat Rasul, and they want to get the blessings, salawat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah innaha qurbatun lahum. And Allah says, indeed it will be a means of drawing near to Allah Ta'ala for them. Sayyidkhiluhumullahu fi rahmatihi, Allah Ta'ala will admit them into His mercy. Inna Allaha ghafurur rahim, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all forgiving, all merciful. So this passage 97 to 98 to 99 is talking about the Bedouins. Okay, now in contrast, now 100. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the Sabiqun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the Sabiqun. وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ. Remember I told you the verse is going to be coming about the Ansar. وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ. So in the Quran Kareem, now Allah Ta'ala is also going to attest to the Iman of the Ansar Sahaba. The Iman of the Ansar Sahaba is not confined just to the Muhajirun Sahaba. So As-Sabiqun, As-Sabiqun Al-Awwalun, these are the first, the foremost, the first and the foremost, the first forerunners, the predecessors, the foremost, who? The ones who are Al-Awwalun min Al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar, The first from the Muhajirun, the immigrants, and the first from the Ansar, those who helped them, and وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ, and all of those who followed them with ihsan, with virtue. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. This is why we say radiyallahu anhu after we say any name of any sahabi, because Allah Ta'ala has expressed for all of the Muhajir, Ansar, and the ones who followed, that Allah Ta'ala is pleased with them, wa radu an, and they are pleased with Him. وَأَعَدَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا, and to them will be gardens underneath which rivers flow. They will reside and abide therein forever. ذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, and indeed this is the tremendous great triumph. The tremendous and great triumph. Some have even taken وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ to mean the tabi'in. Allahu Akbar kabira. So not just all Sahaba, but all Sahaba, and then those who were virtuous from the tabi'in, because the tabi'in is not entirely all virtuous people. It's only the Sahaba that we can say that the entire generation of Sahaba were virtuous people. Then they were good and bad people in the tabi'in and the taba'i tabi'in as well. The difference is that the good in the tabi'in have an extra fidila over other salihin and muttaqeen, and the muttaqeen and salihin of the taba'i tabi'in had the next level of fidila, and then after that is all the muttaqeen and salihin of the ummah, based on that which only Allah Ta'ala knows best, but which is not based in any way about generation. But that's a weaker position, and the stronger position, وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ, is that all the others of Sahaba who accepted Iman after the Muhajirun and the Ansar. Okay, after talking about the Sabiqun, in verse 101, Allah Ta'ala talks about the Munafiqun. وَمِمَّنْ حَوْلَكُمْ, and amongst those around you, so again, min al-Arabi, from the Bedouins, Munafiqun, they are the hypocrites. وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ, and also from amongst the Ahl Medina, maradu ala nifaq, they are those who are extremely strong and persist in their hypocrisy. Then Allah Ta'ala says, La ta'lamuhum, you Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam do not know them. Nahnu, I, Allah Ta'ala saying, I, Allah Ta'ala, we na'lamuhum, we know them. Sanu'adhibuhum, and we will punish them marratain, twice. ثُمَّ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَذَابٍ عَظِيمٍ, and thereafter then they will be returned to a tremendous, a great punishment. Okay, so this suggests that they were munafiqun in the surrounding areas amongst the Bedouin, but also from in the people of Medina Munawwarah. The punishment twice means that they will be punished in this world and also in the hereafter. In this world as well as in the hereafter, and then they will be relegated to a great punishment, that is obviously the fire of Jahannam. Verse 102, وَآخِرُونَ اعْتَرَفُوا بِذُنُوبِهِمْ, and now there's yet another group. There's another group, so the 100 is the Sabiqun, 101 is the Munafiqun, and 102 Allah Ta'ala is mentioning yet another group. Now again, this is the group of those people who were sincere and stayed behind and didn't go to the Tabuk campaign. So not the Munafiqun who stayed behind, but the sincere believers who stayed behind, and they acknowledged their sins. وَآخَرُونَ اعْتَرَفُوا بِذُنُوبِهِمْ, and then there are others who do i'tiraf, who acknowledge and accept their sins. خَلَطُوا أَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَآخَرَ سَيِّئًا, and they actually have mixed righteous, virtuous deeds with sayyi'an, with evil deeds. Asallahu an yatuba alayhim. So remember Surah At-Tawbah, it may be indeed that perhaps that Allah Ta'ala will relent towards them and accept their, Inna Allah Ghafurur Rahim, indeed Allah Ta'ala is all forgiving and all merciful. So the theme of Allah Ta'ala is relenting and yatubu towards us and our tawbah towards Him is recurring obviously in Surah Tawbah. Now the ulama have taken the general lesson from this ayah, that this is really the ayah that applies to people like you and me. right? That we are a mixture. We do some good deeds, alhamdulillah, only from the tawfiq of Allah Ta'ala, and we also do some sins and bad deeds. May Allah Ta'ala guide us out of that, and may He forgive us and be merciful towards us. But the key attribute to have hope that Allah Ta'ala will relent to us, for indeed He is forgiving and merciful, and this is basically a promise that in Allah Ghafurur Rahim, that He will send His maghfirah and rahmah, is this itiraf al-dhunub, that we must acknowledge our sins in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we must have remorse and regret, and we must change our ways. Verses 103 to 104. So continuing on this theme of itiraf al-dhunub, on accepting sins and how to get the forgiveness and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first in 103, Allah Ta'ala tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, khudh min amwalihim sadaqah, that you should take some of their wealth as a sadaqah, as a voluntary charity. As a voluntary charity. Why? Tutahhiruhum, that it will purify them. Wa tuzakkihim biha, and it will let's come up with a different English word for this. So it will let's say it will, let's for tahara, cleanse. It will cleanse them, what to zakim, and it will purify them. Biha, by means of that charity. So this is another reason why we give sadaqah. When we've done a sin, that we hope that by means of giving that charity, Allah Ta'ala will cleanse us from our sins. Allah Ta'ala will do our tazkiyah, will purify us from whatever rot was inside of us, or a heart that inclined us towards that sin. And then wasalli alayhim, Allahu Akbar, Allah Ta'ala tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he should recite salawat on them. Inna salataka sakanun lahum, indeed your salawat, your blessings that you recite on them, sakanun lahum, will be a great comfort for them, will be a great sukoon for them. Wallahu Samiyun Alim, and indeed Allah Ta'ala is all listening, all knowing. Allahu Akbar Kabira. Allah Ta'ala is all listening, all knowing. So this is beautiful verses of Quran again that we should remember. And now how can we get this? So remember, when we send salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah Ta'ala sends 10 salawat on us. So what we learn is, how do we get out of sin? Number one, itiraf. We should accept and acknowledge that sin in front of Allah Ta'ala and feel remorse and regret in front of Him. Second, we should give charity. Third, we should send salawat on the, that's not Allah Ta'ala saying in Quran, telling the Prophet to send salawat on them. That can't happen for us, so we should send salawat on him, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then Allah Ta'ala will send salawat on us. So these are the 3 steps that we learn how we can get out of hope for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hope for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. So again, as we mentioned, these verses pertain to those sincere believers who failed to join the Battle of Tabuk. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned from Tabuk, so it comes in a hadith that these sincere believers, they tied themselves, they bound themselves to pillars, swearing to that in a pledge that they would not release themselves from those pillars until Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself would set them free. Until Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself would set them free. Some of the So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he entered back to Medina Munawwara and saw them, he said, "No, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will not free them until and unless Allah ta'ala commands me to do so. They did not accompany me, did not strive along with the believers, so I will wait for the command and act accordingly." So then Allah ta'ala revealed this verse 102, that they have admitted to their sins, they have mixed some good deeds with bad deeds, and then Allah ta'ala announced here, if you look, that inshallah Allah ta'ala will relent towards them. Indeed Allah ta'ala is all forgiving and all merciful. that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he understood this to mean that this is the command of Allah ta'ala that I should release them and untie them. So he went and he released and untied them and told them they were forgiven. When they were forgiven, they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and offered their wealth to him in charity. Why? Because they said that this is the wealth that kept us back, and because of this we stayed back and didn't go on Tabuk, so we want to give it away. So first Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, that your Allah Ta'ala revealing verse 102 to me means that your repentance, acceptance of your repentance is unconditional. But then Allah Ta'ala revealed verse 103, that khudh min amwalihim, that you go ahead and take their money that they're offering to you as charity. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the revelation of verse 103, he took that verse, took that charity from them. Now there's different mentions of how many people. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma mentions that there were 10 people who had tied themselves to the pillars. Other mentions there 7, other mentions there 5, other mentions there 8. One of the most famous ones is that of Sayyidina Abu Lubaba radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and that pillar is still preserved in Masjid Nabawi, istiwana or column or pillar of Abu Lubaba radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Although there are other stories as to why, other narrations as to why Sayyidina Abu Lubaba radiallahu anhu tied himself to that pillar. Khair, then alam ya'lamu anna Allah huwa yaqbalu at-tawbata, and do they not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is that being who accepts tawbah an ibadihi, He accepts the repentance from His servants and slaves. So this is another use of the word tawbah in Surah At-Tawbah, right? And this may be the real At-Tawbah for which the surah has been named. وَيَأْخُذُ الصَّدَقَاتِ, and Allah Ta'ala accepts and receives the charities that they spend. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all relenting towards believers who seek His forgiveness and mercy and repent to Him. Ar-Rahim is infinitely and all merciful. In verse 105, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that one should follow the repentance with actions. وَقُلِ اعْمَلُوا, and proclaim to them Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so they should act, they should perform good deeds. فَسَيَرَ اللَّهُ أَمَلَكُمْ, and Allah Ta'ala will see the good deeds that you do. وَرَسُولُهُ, as will the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ, as will the believers. وَسَتُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ, and soon you will be brought back to that being who knows all that is unseen and all that is seen and witnessed. فَيُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, and He Himself, Allah Ta'ala, will inform you concerning regarding all that which you used to do. So this is the next thing in our tawbah, is that we should do good a'mal. And we should do good amal secretly and if a person did that mistake publicly, they didn't go to Tabuk, so they should not publicly do good amal and good actions. And obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of all actions that we do. And then verse 106, وَآخِرُونَ مُرْجَوْنَ لِأَمْرِ اللَّهِ, and yet now there is another group who they're awaiting for the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, awaiting for the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they also is a group that did not go forward, did not join the expedition in Tabuk, but they didn't bind themselves to the pillar either. They weren't so repentant as the ones we mentioned just now in the verses above, and so they were made to wait, and they wait and wait for the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're told to wait for the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they didn't seek forgiveness and they did not bind themselves to the column. Imma yu'adhibuhum wa imma yatubu alayhim, then perhaps Allah Ta'ala may punish them, or perhaps Allah Ta'ala may relent towards them and accept their repentance. Wallahu alimun hakim, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all knowing, is all wise. Now these three, and there'll be more about them, and most famous amongst them is Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik anhu, but also with him is Sayyidina Hilal ibn Umayyah and Sayyidina Murad ibn Rabi anhuma. And so their mention of them is coming a bit later in this very same Surah Tawbah, most famously because there's a long hadith narrated by Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik anhu. So those are those others mentioned here in verse 106. Okay, and we'll come back to the moment. Verse 107 to 108. It's a very important teaching, I think, for today also. This is what I was saying, that most people aren't aware of this incident in Islamic history. So here, I've given the title here, the descriptor, the false masajid. The false masajid. What does that mean? That they're in history, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a person who falsely established a masjid for false reasons, and Allah Ta'ala describes that. So let me explain to you the historical incident. Then we will do the verses. Then I will explain to you, inshallah, a modern application of these verses that is very important and unfortunate, but very important that we understand it. Historical incident is that there was a certain monk who was a prominent person of the Aus clan of Medina Munawwara. So remember, the Ansar were from two tribes, the Aus and the Khazraj. He was a very prominent person from the Aus tribe, but he converted to Christianity and then became a monk. His name was Abu Amir al-Rahib, the monk. And before Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina Munawwara, he had converted to Christianity. And after the Battle of Badr, he realized that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sahaba Ikram were strong, and so he contacted the Quraysh in Makkah Mukarramah and he joined them. And it's also narrated about this particular person, Abu Amir al-Rahib, that in the Battle of Uhud he joined with the Quraysh, the pagans of Makkah Mukarramah, and he participated in digging some of the ditches, one of which into Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam fell into and was injured. And after the Battle of Uhud, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam confronted him, but he refused to accept Islam. Then he fled and he went all the way to the Byzantine Empire, and he went to meet the Emperor Heraclius. And he tried to convince Heraclius that you should send the army, because now he saw that after Uhud, he saw that the army of the pagans of Makkah will not be able to be victorious. So he went all the way there to Heraclius, and he said that you should send the army of the Byzantines against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Heraclius emperor said, okay, fine, we will send you some assistance. So then he had him and his allies, Abu Amir al-Rahib, him and his allies and friends, they built a masjid near Masjid Quba, which is slightly outside Medina Munawwara, as some of you may have been there. And he told them that I've gone to the emperor of Byzantine Empire and he's going to help us as well. So they made a masjid there. And then they said that our masjid is especially for the weak and the poor, kind of like a posturing type of Christianity, right? It's especially for the weak and the poor. And then he sent a message inviting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to come and pray salah in their masjid. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied that, okay, I'm going on a journey, but I will come. When I return, I will come. The journey meant I'm going on the battle of Tabuk. I'm going to journey to Tabuk, and when I come back from Tabuk, I will come. So when they were returning from Tabuk, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was returning from Tabuk, and he had this intention on the way back, he will stop at this place outside Quba and pray at these people's masjid. One day away they were, then Allah Ta'ala revealed these verses. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these verses, then Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded that mosque, that masjid be burnt down. Alright? Okay, so now let's look at these verses 107 to 108, and this is why I gave it this title of the false masjid. The false masjid. In Arabic, this is known as Masjid al-Zirar. Masjid al-Zirar. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذين اتخذوا مسجدا ضرارا. And as for those who took and established a masjid for what? For dhiraran, to create harm, dharar, to create harm, wa kufran, and also to establish disbelief. So Allah is describing this masjid as false because it's been established for harm and disbelief. But tafriqan bayna mu'mineen, and they wanted to divide the believers, be a source of division for the disbelievers, and وَإِرْسَادًا لِمَنْ حَارَبَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولُهُ, and they plan to make it an outpost. Remember, for the Byzantines, for who? حَارَبَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولُهُ, for those who wish to wage war against Allah Ta'ala and His blessed Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Min qablu, who had made war on Allah's Messenger Sallallahu before. So an outpost maybe for the pagans of Makkah Mukarramah, and a future outpost for the people of Byzantine. وَلَا يَحْلِفُنَّ إِنْ أَرَدْنَا إِلَّا الْحُسْنَى, and they surely swear that we had no irada, no intention, no desire, illa al-husna, except for what is beautiful and excellent and what is best. Wallahu yashhadu, but Allah Ta'ala bears witness. Allah Ta'ala bears witness, innahum lakadhibun, indeed they are liars. Allah Ta'ala bears, they are liars. La takum fihi abada, and Allah Ta'ala tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, la takum, you singular, Prophet Muhammad, do not stand there, do not stand in prayer there ever, never. La masjidun usissa ala taqwa min awwala yawmin ahakku. However, that masjid, that was, now again, look what a masjid should be, whose foundation was laid upon taqwa min awwala yawm, from the very first day, ahakku is more deserving, is more worthy, antakuma fihi, that you, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, should stand therein. And in such a masjid, fihi rijalun, and this is referring to obviously Masjid al-Nabawi and also Masjid al-Quba and the true masajid. Fihi rijalun yuhibbuna an yatatahharu wallahu yuhibbul mutatahhirin. And in that masjid, which was first established on taqwa, therein are people who love to cleanse themselves, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who cleanse themselves. Alright? Okay, so the last part is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam never to stand in the masjid. And we get this teaching, and this is actually referring to Masjid al-Quba, and this is why, another reason why it's good to go visit Masjid Quba when we visit Medina Munawwara, because Masjid Quba is mentioned in Quran al-Kareem. Now, one may not want to pray one of the 5 prayers there, only because Allah Ta'ala has mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned a special reward for praying the prayers in Masjid Nabawi. But what some of the ulama and mashayikh do is that they walk there, because that's also sunnah, after Fajr Salah, and they pray the Nawafil volunteer prayers of Salatul Ishraq in Masjid Quba. And it's a very nice walk, and you get to, I did it many years ago, and at that time Medina Munawwara was maybe much more simple than it is today, but you got a nice feeling of Medina Munawwara when you walk to Masjid Quba as well. Alright? And this also did another general ruling. The purpose of masjid is it must be established on taqwa. And sometimes today there are some people of fitna who are trying to divide the believers and open up some type of feminist mosque or LGBT mosque or na'udhu billah. And these masjids are masjids of harm, and masjids spreading at least certain ideologies and concepts of the unbelievers. I wouldn't go so far to declare those people disbelievers. That is not my right. But definitely with tafriqan bayna mu'mineen, there are also going to be a division between believers. And as an outpost for those non-Muslim, secularist, feminists who are against religion, which they dub as conservatism, it can be an outpost for them. So we should be wary. May Allah protect us from this fitna. But this is the fitna that existed even at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Verse 111, very famous verse of Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allah ashtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum bi anna lahum al-jannah. That indeed Allah Ta'ala has purchased from the believers what? Their own selves, their souls, their own selves, and all of their wealth. So nothing belongs to them, their own self and their own wealth, nothing belongs to them. Everything belongs to Allah Ta'ala. And what is He given them in purchase for that? بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ, in exchange for, indeed, Jannah lahum being theirs. In exchange for Jannah, for heaven being theirs. Okay, now if this is one of those ayat that has multiple topics within one ayah, right? But now connected to the rest of what's in this ayah, what does it mean to be purchased? So now we have to answer the call. Go back to earlier in this, we have to answer the call of Allah Ta'ala's messenger. If we have to call and go forth against the hostile and unjust and oppressive aggressors. يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, they fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَيَقْتُلُونَ وَيُقْتَلُونَ, they slay and they are slain. وَعْدًا عَلَيْهِ حَقًّا فِي التَّوْرَاةِ وَالْإِنْجِيلِ وَالْقُرْآنِ, and this is a promise that is binding upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a promise that is binding upon Him. So alayhi, this He is the pronoun is to Allah Ta'ala. Wa'dan, it is a promise binding upon. Wa'dan is a promise. Alay, binding upon He, Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Haqqan, right? Which is a truth that He has mentioned in the Torah, the Injil, and the Quran. So all three sacred scriptures mention this notion that human beings and their wealth, their very selves and wealth, has been sold for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is binding up, and they must answer the call. وَمَنْ أَوْفَى بِأَهْدِهِ مِنَ اللَّهِ, and who can be more faithful to their promise than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? فَاسْتَبْشِرُوا بِبَيْئِكُمُ الَّذِي بَايَعْتُمْ بِهِ, and you should receive you should rejoice and be happy in the bay', in the transaction which you have engaged in, right? In the sense, in this sale of yourselves and your wealth for Jannah. وَذَلِكَ هُوَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, and indeed this is the great triumph. This is the great triumph. Now, Allahu Alam, I don't know enough about the Torah, Injil as they exist today, whether they have the same teaching, but Allah is making it clear that this is part of the teaching of the original Torah and the original Injil, and yet another example of how the Torah, the Injil, and the Quran al-Kareem have brought the same message, each one confirming the one that came before it. Verse 112, given that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was on this attribute of the Fawz al-Azim, so then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to mention a list of attributes of the believers and of those who are successful. At-Ta'ibun, those who make Tawbah. So again, this theme of Tawbah is recurring throughout the Quran al-Kareem. Tawbah means those who turn to Allah Ta'ala in repentance. Al-Abidun, those who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make ibadah. Al-Hamidun, those who do the hamd and shukr, who praise Allah Ta'ala and are grateful to Him. As-Sa'ihun, those who are the wayfarers who go out and travel in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ar-Raki'un, those who make ruku, who bow down in front of the azmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As-Sajidun, those who do sujood, who do sajda, who prostrate to the glory and magnificence and of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Amiruna bil Ma'ruf, and those who enjoin what is known to be good and true, and وَالنَّاهُونَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and those who forbid against that which is known to be wrong. وَالْحَافِظُونَ لِحُدُودِ اللَّهِ, and those who observe and maintain the boundaries and limits that have been set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and give glad tidings to all of the believers. So all of these attributes that come before are what it means to be the true mu'mineen. True mu'mineen. Some ulama of the position that sa'ihuna also refers to those who fast because of one hadith in which Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that siyaha, the traveling of this ummah, lies in fasting. But given the context of the verses that came before and after, it's better to understand as-sa'ihun in light of the verses in Surah Tawbah, as opposed to a hadith separately, which is not specifically about this verse of Quran al-Kareem. Obviously, the hududullah refer to the sharia, the ahkam of sharia, the boundaries that are set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of halal and haram. Verses 113 to 114. Right? Now this is that some of the believers used to make dua for the forgiveness of their family members and relatives who had passed away and they died on shirk. Alright? So they died not having accepted Iman, not having made Tawbah. Right? And then there's the answer to this question that, well, the blessed Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, he also made dua for his father. Right? Because that's in Quran al-Kareem in Surah 19 verse 47. And so the question is that, is it appropriate for them to have made this dua or not? So Allah Ta'ala sent down verses of revelation to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam when those believers made that dua. So again, this is the humanity of the Sahaba, and Allah Ta'ala does not deny that humanity, but Allah Ta'ala then trains us on what parts of our human self have to submit to the wisdom and command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What part of it is to submit to the wisdom and command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then because the beginning of the verse says وَمَا كَانَ لِلنَّبِيِّ, so some ulama have also mentioned that this pertains to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's uncle Abu Talib, that when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to him and he tried to convince Abu Talib to accept Iman at the moment, right, that Abu Talib was passing away. Well, near him were his friends as well, who were Abu Jahl and Ibn Abi Umayyah, who were like some very leaders of the kuffar. And so when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was pleading to him, and this is the hadith in the Sahih Bukhari, that he was pleading to him that, oh my uncle, say La ilaha illallah, so I can present that kalima that you recite to Allah Ta'ala. And he kept saying that, but the mushrikeen, they kept telling Abu Talib that, will you forsake the deen, religion of Abdul Muttalib? And finally then, instead of reciting La ilaha illallah, Abu Talib then listened to Abu Jahl and said, instead I remain upon the deen of Abdul Muttalib. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in response that, I will keep seeking the forgiveness from Allah Ta'ala on your behalf until Allah Ta'ala forbids me. And then Allah Ta'ala revealed these two verses forbidding Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make this dua of forgiveness. And it also comes in some other hadith that Abu Talib, when the Prophet ﷺ told him that I will keep seeking forgiveness for you, he then turned to Rasulullah ﷺ, and Abu Talib said that if it were not for the fact that the Quraysh will taunt me after I die, I would surely have recited La ilaha illallah and cooled your eyes and made you happy. So this was the love that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had for his uncle who had done so much for him, that obviously the true love we can have for any family member, any person, is that we want them to accept Iman. So this is verse 113. مَا كَانَ لِلنَّبِيِّ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and it is not befit, it is no longer permissible for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and those who believe to do what? أَن يَسْتَغْفِرُوا لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ, that they should seek Allah Ta'ala's forgiveness on the part of the idolaters for their shirk. This is what it means. وَلَوْ كَانُوا أُولِي قُرْبَى مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا وَلَوْ كَانُوا أُولِي قُرْبَى, that uli qurba, that even if they may be of their near kin and relatives, min ba'di ma tabayyana lahum, after it has become clear to them, annahum ashabul jahim, that they will be the inhabitants of the blaze. Why? Because they died without repenting from shirk. And we did this before. Allah Ta'ala said in Quran al-Karim that He can forgive any sin except for shirk. Okay, now verse 114. This is the incident of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. He sought forgiveness. Surah Maryam, Surah 19. It's coming, inshallah, verses 45 to 46, and we will do it there. But Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, he made dua for the forgiveness of his father. And in Surah Shu'ara, Surah 26, verse 86, Allah Ta'ala even mentions the words of that dua that Ibrahim alayhi salam makes for his father. Alright? But here Allah Ta'ala is mentioning in Surah At-Tawbah that even Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam finally, after making such du'as, exonerated himself, absolved himself from his father. So you can say that this verse, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 114, is the final one that represents the end of the story mentioned in Surah Maryam, verse 46, and Surah Shu'ara, verse 86. And what it means is that when Allah Ta'ala revealed this to Ibrahim alayhi salam, when Allah Ta'ala revealed to Ibrahim alayhi salam that his father had died as a mushrik, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam also stopped making dua for his father. So let's look now, verse 114. وَمَا كَانَ اسْتِغْفَارُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ لِأَبِيهِ, and was not the seeking of forgiveness of blessed Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam for his father, it was only إِلَّا عَنْ مَوْئِدَةٍ وَعَدَهَا إِيَّاهُ. It was only due to a promise that he, Ibrahim alayhi salam, had made only إِيَّاهُ, to him, to his father. فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ أَنَّهُ عَدُوٌّ لِلَّهِ. However, when it became manifestly clear, lahu, to him, Ibrahim alayhi salam, annahu, that indeed he, in other words his father, aduwwun lillahi, was an enemy to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tabarra'a minhu. Then Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam disassociated himself and absolved himself from his father. In other words, he didn't make that dua anymore. Inna Ibrahim la'awwahun halim. Indeed, Ibrahim alayhi salam was very soft-hearted, very tender-hearted, and halimun, very tolerant and compassionate. So then this is the teaching for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah Ta'ala is giving consolation to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that even the previous Prophet Ibrahim, he made dua for his own father, and you're making for your uncle. And Ibrahim was also like you, awahun halim, but he also desisted after we made it clear to him. And now by revealing verse 113, Allah Ta'ala has made it clear to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if it's true for Ibrahim alayhi salam, it's true for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It will also be true for the alladhina amanu, that they cannot make dua for the forgiveness of their parents or other relatives or any non-relatives for that matter, who for certain tabayyana, for certain that they died on disbelief. Right? Now this is one of the most difficult things to teach for those of us or those who are converts, who have parents who are atheists, who are not believers, and it just means that we should make, all I would say is it just means to make as much dua as we can and as much dawah as we can while parents are alive, and when parents pass away, hope, because this is revelation that was made clear to the prophets, but we don't have that clarity. So to hope, even if it's, as they say in English, to hope against all hopes, but to hope nonetheless that perhaps there was some sliver of iman, some drop of iman that was there in the hearts of parents or near ones or dear ones, that Allah Ta'ala knows, and inshallah Allah Ta'ala will make it a means of taking them out of His punishment and admitting them ultimately into Jannah, inshallah. Ameen. Verse 115, Allah Ta'ala makes a very important point, right? And so why? It's very related to this point before, that we won't make dua for forgiveness, because I'm sorry, there's an extra meme at the start. It should just say وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ. It should just say وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ. So in the ayah before this, the Halim of 114, the meme of the Halim got pasted here as well, incorrectly. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُذِلَّ قَوْمًا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَاهُمْ. And it is not, and Allah Ta'ala will not, and it is not Allah Ta'ala's practice, it's not the way of Allah Ta'ala to lead a people astray, لِيُذِلَّ قَوْمًا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَاهُمْ, after having guided them, hatta, until yubayyina lahum, until it becomes absolutely clear and manifest to them, to that qawm, ma yattakuna, that which they should fear. Ma yatakuna, all that they should truly be muttaqi of, all of the things that they should be conscious of, conscientious of, aware of, and fear. Inna Allah bikulli shayin alim. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all-knowing of every single thing. So it means that Allah ta'ala guides before He lets go astray. He will not let any qawm go astray after He has guided them. So this is clear that going astray and being led astray or allowed to wander astray by Allah ta'ala occurs after being guided. Second, occurs after Allah ta'ala makes it crystal clear what those people should have been wary and conscious of. Only then can they go astray. Indeed, Allah ta'ala is all-knowing of everything. Inna Allah lahu mulku samawati wal ard. And indeed to Allah ta'ala belong the kingdom, dominion, sovereignty, reign, power and mastery over all the samawat and al-ard. Yuhyi wa yumit, He brings to life and He causes to die. Wa ma lakum min dunillahi min waliyyin wa la nasir. And you do not have for you, apart from Allah ta'ala, in anyone, any kind of wali, protector, ally, benevolent friend, nor wala nasir, nor will you have any helper apart from Him. 117, then Allah Ta'ala again, this mention of Tawbah. It's so, unlike, many other surahs, the name is mentioned only once in the surah. This, you will see over and over the word Tawbah in so many ways in this surah. لَقَدْ تَابَ اللَّهُ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. That indeed Allah Ta'ala has relented. Allah Ta'ala has relented and turned towards Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So what is it? And that is that some have taken this to believe again in this battle of Tabuk, that even Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was soft and tender, and he let some of the people stay behind. Let some of the people stay behind, as opposed to Tabuk, instead of going to Tabuk. So even that softness, Allah Ta'ala is saying that we relent to you and we will not take you to task for that. وَالْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُ فِي سَاعَةِ الْأُسْرَةِ. And the Muhajirun and the Ansar of the Sahaba who followed him, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in that moment of great difficulty. Or here maybe it's better to translate as hour, in that hour of great difficulty. So Sayyidina Umar was asked once about this ayah, and he said Usra here meant Tabuk, that it was extreme heat, and by the time we reached there we were overcome by thirst. It was extremely difficult, and that's why some people, some Sahaba, they didn't go, and the Sahaba were sharing mounts, and Sahaba had some sicknesses on the journey, and they ran out of provision at times. It even comes that they used to take the date pits, the date stones, and suck on them, and that's what they used to do in place of having any food. Allahu Akbar Kabira. So it's a very long distance. The historians mention that it's about 700 kilometers to get to Tabuk. Alright, and here now we mention the details of this. Sorry, that's the next verse. 1 minute. مِن بَعْدِ مَا كَادَ يَزِيغُ قُلُوبُ فَرِيقٍ مِّنْهُمْ. That Allah Ta'ala indeed has relented towards them after the hearts of a group of them, after almost, so you used to do the hearts of a group of them nearly swerved. ثُمَّ تَابَ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّهُ بِهِمْ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Then Allah Ta'ala did relent towards them. Indeed, He is Ra'uf, He is all kind, and Rahim, He is merciful unto them. Okay, verse 118 now is about those which we mentioned before, right? That they have to wait for Allah Ta'ala's decree to come, because they did not bind themselves to the pillars and immediately seek Allah, the Prophet's forgiveness, and when the Prophet returned from Tabuk. So these three, and most famous amongst them is Ka'b ibn Malik radhiyallahu anhu. So these are those three who stayed back, and they didn't offer excuses before the Prophet ﷺ left for Tabuk, nor did they offer excuses after he came, nor did they tie themselves to the pillars. And the most famous of this is Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, most famous because he himself narrates his condition. So وَعَلَى الثَّلَاثَةِ الَّذِينَ خُلِّفُوا, and on those three, so this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning these three in Quran al-Kareem, and onto the three who stayed behind, but literally it means who were left behind, حَتَّى إِذَا ذَاقَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَرْضِ, until the earth, despite its breadth, closed in on them. The earth felt straightened to them. بِمَا رَهُبَتْ. So بِمَا رَهُبَتْ means despite its vast breadth. ذَاقَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ means it closed upon them, it felt tight upon them. Second, وَذَاقَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ, and their own souls their own selves became straightened and tightened for them. So this is an expression in Arabic of extreme difficulty and extreme, when you're in an extreme predicament, وَظَنُّوا أَنْ لَا مَلْجَأَ مِنَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا إِلَيْهِ, and they came to this realization that there is no refuge min Allahi, from Allah Ta'ala, illa ilayhi, except save to and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thumma taba alayhim, and then Allah Ta'ala ultimately did then relent unto them and accept their tawbah, liyatubu, so that they may repent. Inna Allahu at-Tawwab ar-Rahim, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all relenting, all merciful. So this is also sometimes a sentence that is repeated as a type of dhikr. La malja'a min Allahi illa ilay. La malja'a min Allahi illa ilay. La malja'a min Allahi illa ilay. So especially when a person does sins, and those sins cause a predicament in their life, so they're now stuck. So they should recite this ayah in reflection, La malja'a min Allahi illa ilay, and then they should make a lot of dua to Allah Ta'ala, pray 2 rakats, Salat At-Tawbah, make Sayyid al-Istighfar, pray the other prayers of forgiveness that are mentioned in the Quran, the Hadith. They should make a lot of istighfar and tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La malja'a min Allahi illa ilay. Alright. So the story here of Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik, like I said, has narrated this incident entirely himself. It's a long hadith, but it's a very beautiful hadith, and so we're going to go through it inshallah. And I think basically we're going to finish Surah Tawbah today, and we're going to have to do actually Surah Yunus tomorrow, inshallah. So we're running slightly behind. We'll have finished 1/4 of the juz, but inshallah Allah Ta'ala put barakah, and we will find a way to catch up inshallah. Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu mentions the story himself, and Imam Bukhari has narrated this at length. And he says that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was returning to Medina Munawwara, Ka'b ibn Malik himself says that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was returning from Tabuk to Medina Munawwara, I started thinking, and I'm just going to summarize this for you in English, right? I'm going to summarize the narration. He started thinking about what excuse could he try to offer, and he thought of making something up just to offer an excuse in front of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and even started consulting with his family in this manner. But when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam was almost back to Medina Munawwara, Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu says that I decided, no, I'm going to speak the truth. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was his practice that whenever he would return from an expedition, he would first go to the masjid, he would perform 2 rakat salah, and he would meet people. So when he came to the masjid and prayed his 2 rakat salah, and about 80 people came, and they offered some excuse, taking a qasam, taking oaths to the Prophet ﷺ as to why they did not venture forth in the expedition for Tabuk. Nabi Kareem ﷺ outwardly apparently was silent and accepted it, and even made istighfar, sought forgiveness for them with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Ka'b ibn Malik says that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's a strange expression, he said he smiled at him the smile of an angry person. So this is kind of basically the smile, you smile at someone that you love deeply, but you're upset with them also. So it's like a tight smile. And Rasulullah asked him that what prevented you from going on the expedition to Tabuk, and why did you not purchase a mount? And Ka'b ibn Malik replied that indeed I did have a mount, a means of transport, a ride, but by Allah Ta'ala, and he swore like the others had, he took qasam by Allah Ta'ala wallahi, but he said if I was in front of any other person in the world, I would have escaped their anger by making up some excuse, because indeed I have been gifted eloquent speech. But I know that if I falsely make an excuse and swear on an oath to please you, Allah Ta'ala would be displeased by me, Allah Ta'ala would be displeased with me, and if I speak the truth, you will be displeased with me, but I want the forgiveness of Allah Ta'ala. So then he told Rasulullah wallahi, by Allah Ta'ala, I have no excuse to offer. In terms of wealth and strength, so I had all the means and ability, I was never in such a strong position as I was at the time when you departed, and I chose not to join you. So now when he said this, Rasulullah said, addressing everybody, that this person has spoken the truth. And then he addressed Ka'b ibn Malik and said, you may leave until Allah Ta'ala decides your matter. And so then Ka'b ibn Malik said, okay, I left. When I left the presence of Rasulullah, the people of his tribe got angry with him, that look, now you're an embarrassment for the tribe, you should have just made some excuse like all the other people did, and the Prophet would have forgave you like he forgave the others. So Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik says about himself that I almost listened to them and went back to Rasulullah and went back and said that made up some excuse, but then he chose not to do so. Okay, so then he went away. Then Rasulullah then gathered all the companions and told them that you will all boycott these thalatha that I was mentioning in Quran, and we mentioned their names earlier, and that you will not even talk to them. So Ka'b ibn Malik said that nobody would talk to me, and I would go to Masjid Nabawi and pray salah there, nobody would talk to me. I would go to the market, nobody would talk to me. I would say salam to Rasulullah hopefully watching his lips for a response, and he would not reply to me. But he says that I tried to perform salah near Rasulullah and I noticed that when I was praying salah, so must have been some sunnahs before or after salah, Rasulullah was looking at me. But when I finished my salah, he would turn his gaze away from me. And then Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik narrates himself about the other two. He says, and the other two didn't even do this. They couldn't even go to the masjid, they couldn't go to the market, they didn't leave their homes because they were overwhelmed by their intense grief. Then Sayyidina Ka'b said that I also was in my house a lot, and once I climbed the wall of the house of my cousin, who was so dear to me, Abu Qatada, and I said salam to my cousin, and my cousin did not reply. And then I asked my cousin that, I ask you by Allah Ta'ala, that don't you know that I love Allah Ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu. And he kept asking this question, and Abu Qatada wouldn't reply, and then he kept asking, so Abu Qatada saying yes, he said, Allahu wa Rasuluhu a'lamu, that Allah Ta'ala and His Messenger, they know best whether you love them, I can't say. So when Ka'b ibn Malik said that when I heard this, I climbed back down the wall, and I said that what is it that me, the people even doubting that I love Allah Ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Then he says that a king, some farmer when he was in the market, some farmer from Syria came to him and said, I brought you a letter from the king of Ghassan, and this is the king of the disbelievers, and the letter said that the news has reached us that your master, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has been harsh with you. So Allah Ta'ala should not waste you, so why don't you come to us and we will honor you. And then Ka'b ibn Malik said, I was shocked, this is another test, and now look at me, the believers are boycotting me and the disbelievers are sending letters to me, soliciting me. So it says I burned that in the fire, that letter. And then Rasulullah also issued a command that they should not be divorced from their wives, because this was also a possibility as a punishment for them to annul their marriage. Finally, but that the wife should not stay with them, the wife should also boycott them. So one of the three, Halal ibn Rabi', he requested permission of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that his wife, requested the Prophet permission that can I stay with him because he's very old and he has no one to take care of him. So he allowed her that you can take care of him, but you cannot engage in any marital relations. Okay, then Ka'b ibn Malik, he continues his narration that after 50 nights, 50 nights and days passed in this way, says I was sitting on the roof of my house after Fajr Salah. Ajib, just imagine that, right? I was sitting on the roof of my house after Fajr Salah. It says at that point I felt the earth had just swallowed me, just like it would be mentioned in the verse. And then I heard a caller from atop this hill of Sa'la claim, O Ka'b ibn Malik, rejoice, rejoice. And then Ka'b ibn Malik says that when I heard this, I knew that my trial was now over, and I fell into sajda in shukr and hum to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I found out that after Fajr Salat that day, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had announced that Allah ta'ala had forgiven them, and this verse 118 of Surah At-Tawbah had been revealed. And he said, people started coming to me and to tell us this good news. And Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik was so happy that one person who came to him, he gave him his clothing, out of happiness. He gave him a gift. So khair, then he went to the masjid to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says that on the way, large groups of Sahaba just kept meeting me one by one. They were all rushing to meet me. And then when I reached the masjid, there were so many people already sitting there with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, but I remember the first of those who were sitting in the masjid to get up and to come to me and congratulate me was Sayyidina Talha radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Khair, then he says that when I went and I finally passed all these people and I met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the blessed face of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam was beaming with joy. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told me that except these glad tidings, no better day has ever come upon you than this day that Allah Ta'ala has revealed a verse in Quran al-Kareem that He has accepted your tawbah. And Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik says that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam's face was overwhelmed with so much joy that his face shone like the full moon. And then he said that I told Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I want to donate all my wealth in charity to please Allah Ta'ala and His blessed Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu said you should keep some for yourself. And so Sayyidina Ka'b said, I keep some for myself. And then he told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that because Allah Ta'ala had forgiven him, because he spoke the truth, that he pledges that for the rest of his life he will never ever lie, and that he will never ever lie. And he says, then he makes his own comment about his own incident, that if he had lied to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, means come up with some excuse, then he would have surely been destroyed, and it was the greatest day after the day in which he accepted Islam. So this is one of the most beloved ahadith and narrations in the Sahih Imam Bukhari, the story of Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik, and it shows the connection between Quran, revelation, and the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and the incidents of Sahaba, and also shows the azmat of Sahaba Kiram, that when Allah Ta'ala chooses to forgive a Sahabi, He chooses to reveal a verse in Quran al-Kareem for the forgiveness of the Sahabi. So know that the only true deen and the only true understanding of Islam is the one that views that all the Sahaba Kiram radiyallahu ta'ala anhu ajma'in are true believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now we do the verse 118. وعلى الثلاثة الذين خلفوا حتى إذا ذاقت عليهم الأرض بما رحبت, and on those three who had been left behind, and their condition was such that until and that the earth had become tight on them despite it being vast. وَذَاقَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ, and their own selves had become tight and closed in on them. وَظَنُّوا أَنْ لَا مَلْجَأَ مِنَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا إِلَيْهِ ثُمَّ تَابَ عَلَيْهِمْ, and then Allah Ta'ala relented towards them, لِيَتُوبُوا, so that they may also repent and have their repentance accepted. إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ, indeed Allah Ta'ala is all relenting and all merciful. And then immediately afterwards, and Allah Ta'ala, the blessing of the sidq, of the truth of Ka'b ibn Malik, told the believers, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha, that, oh, you have iman, you should fear Allah Ta'ala, be conscious of Allah Ta'ala, wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen, and you should always be with those who are truthful. Always be with those who speak the truth and practice the truth no matter what. Verse 122, Allah Ta'ala mentions yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here mentions in verse 122 that not everybody should go forth and hearken the call to fight the just war, because some need to stay back and pursue this specialist activity, which is to acquire knowledge and understanding of deen, and they will need that deep understanding of deen so that once those who have gone forth come back, they can advise and warn and guide them. وَمَا كَانَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لِيَنْفِرُوا. Remember, this word was to go forth, answer the call to go forth. It does not befit the believers that all of them should go forth and fight the just war. كَافَةً, all together. فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ. But rather what should happen is that a party from each group amongst them, minhum ta'ifatun, a party from each group amongst them, liyattafaqahu fid deen, should stay back to gain deep understanding in deen. This is called tafaqquh fid deen. وَلِيُنذِرُوا قَوْمَهُمْ إِذَا رَجَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ, and so that they may guide and warn their own people when they return to them. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَحْذَرُونَ, so that they may be warned and may be warded. So this verse makes it clear, number one, that understanding of deen is a specialist scholarly activity. And even if it's Medina Munawwara, even if Allah Ta'ala's blessed messenger have called you to go forth in jihad fi sabilillah, there's one thing that can make you stay back is to do tafaqquh fi deen. Otherwise you could say that I will go forth and come back. No, this is such a specialist scholarly activity that it requires such a dedication of one's life that even a person has to give up other khidmat of deen, a person has to give other services of deen to engage in tafaqquh fi deen. And this is why there is a specialist class known as the fuqaha. Those are those scholars and jurists who have dedicated their entire lives to have this deep understanding of deen. And if Allah Ta'ala is telling Sahaba Kiram this in Quran Kareem, and that what will be the role of these, that when the others come back, these ones will guide them, it shows the Quranic teaching that all of society should be guided and led by those who have, those few specialist scholars who have tafaqquh fi deen. So this is in contrast to many reformist and modernists who say you should study and learn and understand Islamic law for yourself, who say that the ulama have no role in guiding society. The individual ulama may not be worthy of guiding society, that's a separate thing, but the Quranic understanding is that there will be a group who dedicate themselves to this deep understanding of deen, and they will be the ones who guide the Ahl Deen. Verse 123, again, this is a verse that has been, mistaken and misunderstood by people because they pluck it out. So let me translate it for you, and you will see just on the basis of the translation, how people can, if they wish, how they can misuse this. Ya alladhina amanu qatilu alladhina yalunakum min al-kuffari wal yajidu fikum ghilzatan wa'lamu anna Allaha ma'al muttaqin. That you who believe, you should fight the disbelievers. Alladhina yalunakum, that means those who are near to you. Wal yajidu fikum ghilzatan, and they should find in you a ghilza. They should find that you are very firm. You could even call this harshness in you. Wa'lamu anna Allaha ma'al muttaqin, and know that Allah Ta'ala is with the people of taqwa. So actually what this has to do is again with the enemy of the Byzantines, that Allah Ta'ala was saying in this, that before you try to venture forth, this is before the command was given to fight the Byzantines, you should fight those who have enmity towards you and the hostile aggressors that are closer to you geographically, territorially. First you must defend yourself and protect yourself and vanquish the enemy that is near to you before you think of venturing afar and trying to engage with the Byzantines. Then this notion of that they should find in you a ghilza. It means that they should find in you not some harshness that you're mean to them. By harshness means it's the opposite of gentleness and kindness. That no, now you are firm with them. That you will be absolutely firm in the face of their persistent disbelief. The noble love of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So we're going to end here I wanted to do verses 125 and 126 also. I left that slide out. Let me do that. And then these are the last two verses, 128 129 of Surah At-Tawbah. So verse 125 to 126. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran Al-Karim, وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٍ. And as far as those in whose hearts lies a disease, فَزَادَتْهُمْ رِجْسًا. That disease increases them in rijsan ila rijsihim, in defilement, in evil, in impurity upon impurity. وَمَاتُوا. And then they die, وَهُمْ kafirun. And they die on the state that they are disbelievers. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it clear that if a person is in disbelief, that disbelief will increase them, and their hearts have an illness, it'll have them have more doubt, more sin, more disbelief. Alright, and finally verses 128 to 129, verses that we should recite frequently, and they mention the noble love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for the believers, and the beautiful relationship between Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the believers. And some ulama, such as Ibn Kathir, are of the view that these are the very last verses that were revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That these last two verses, verse 128 to 129 of Surah At-Tawbah, are the final verses of Quran Al-Kareem. And in here, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam is then worried about what will happen to his ummah after he passes away, but also shows his deep love for his ummah. So the two verses are as follows: لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ. That indeed has come to you a prophet, messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ, from among your own selves. عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا أَنِتُّمْ. He is deeply troubled. It weighs mightily on him. مَا أَنِتُّمْ, what you suffer. Number 2, حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. He is extremely concerned about you and extremely desirous of you. And number 3, بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allahu Akbar. Allahul Ra'uf Ar-Rahim is saying in Quran Al-Kareem that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam is بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَؤُوفٌ Rahim, and that he is extremely Ra'uf, kind, tender, gentle, and Rahim, merciful to all the believers. فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا. However, if then they turn away, فَقُلْ. Then proclaim to them, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hasbi Allah, that Allah Ta'ala is sufficient for me, La ilaha illahu, that there is no God except for He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa alayhi tawakkaltu, and upon Him and Him alone do I place all my trust, wa huwa Rabbul Arshil Adim, and He is the Rabb of the great and mighty throne. So we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people who honor this love that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam had for us, and may He make us haris of His sunnah, and may He make us trust upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may He make us also ra'uf and rahim with all of our fellow mu'mineen in the sunnah way that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam was ra'uf and rahim, and may Allah ta'ala guide us out from our sins so that we don't come to Allah ta'ala on the day of judgment in such a state that we bring a burden of sins and it saddens the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.